Ms. Roberts, we have about a minute and a half left. I want to watch the video until it reaches 6:35, please, Ms. Gilman. Do you know where you are at this point, Ms. Roberts?
No.
Okay. Could fast forward just a little bit more, please. Were you in the car?
I just got out of the car.
And do you remember if your car was warm?
Yes.
Stop, please. 6:34:36. Do you see yourself?
Yes, I just got in the driver's side of my car.
And at that point, do you remember whether you still had John's cell phone or you had given it to a first responder?
I don't remember.
Between you having it in your pocket and giving it to a first responder, did you put it or place it anywhere else?
No.
Did you take it out of your pocket and place it in the elements at all?
No.
So it was either in your pocket or in the hands of a first responder?
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I? Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Roberts. How are you?
Good morning.
Under questioning by Mr. Brennan, you talked about the number of times or a number of times that you have spoken to the DA's office or some member of the DA's office. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
How many times in total do you think you've spoken to a representative of the district attorney's office?
I don't have a number.
Would you say it's more than a dozen?
Yes.
Would you say it's more than 50?
Maybe around there.
Okay.
Maybe less.
And who are the folks, Ms. Roberts, that you have spoken to at the DA's office?
Steve Nelson,
Okay.
the victim advocate, Yuri Buchanan, who's a state police officer, and the DA, Michael Morrissey.
And what was the, I want to take those in order, and two of those are at the DA's office. One of those is not. Yuri Buchanan is not at the DA's office. He's actually a Massachusetts State Police officer. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take those in order. How many times would you say you've spoken to Mr. Nelson? Just if you can give me a thumbnail.
I don't know, maybe 30, 40.
Okay. Have you received what you would consider to be updates on the progress of the case?
I would ask questions and he would give me very broad answers.
Okay. Were your questions ever prompted by conversations that you had with your friend, Miss McCabe, Jen McCabe?
Sometimes Jen would say, could you ask Steve this? Because I had a rapport with Steve.
Okay. Were those conversations by text message or phone calls or both?
I would usually text him.
Okay. What about the conversation with, or conversations with Mr. Morrissey, the elected district attorney? What were the circumstances under which you contacted Mr. Morrissey?
Well, during the course of this trial, the witnesses have been harassed,
That's not my question.
Objection.
but I'm answering your question.
Hold on. I'm going to sustain the objection. Next question.
Thank you. Were you phoning him? Were you meeting him? Were you texting him? That's my question. The circumstances of the communication itself.
I phoned the office asking for a meeting, had a meeting, and then he left a voicemail at some point and texted me and said, I just left you a voicemail.
Okay. Was that the extent of your conversations with Mr. Morrissey, the elected DA?
I had one other meeting with other witnesses
Okay.
and the DA.
And turning to Yuri Buchanan, what were the logistics? I'll use that word instead of circumstances. What were the logistics of you contacting Yuri Buchanan? Was it by phone? Was it in-person meetings, text messages, or all of the above?
All of the above.
How many times would you say that you've spoken with Yuri Buchanan?
Spoken or communicated?
Sorry, good point. Communicated with.
Probably 20.
Okay. When was the last time? Actually, let me ask you a different question. Have you ever met with Mr. Brennan before your testimony today?
Yes.
What was the circumstance of that meeting?
Going over my testimony from the last trial
Okay.
and sort of just asking questions on what might come this time. Would I be cross-examined? I wasn't last time. Just sort of, all the things went through my testimony.
Okay. When was that meeting?
I don't know, in the last couple of weeks. I don't know.
Okay. Where was the meeting?
At the DA's office.
Who else was there?
Different times that I would meet with him, Steve Nelson would be there. One time, Brian Tully was there. Mr. Brennan's assistant.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Brennan's assistant.
Okay.
I don't know. Adam Lally and Laura McLaughlin.
Were those meetings, you said there was 2 meetings? Or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, I think there were 2.
Okay. Were those close in time to one another?
Adam Lally and Laura McLaughlin.
Were those meetings, you said there were 2 meetings? Or did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, I think there were 2.
Okay. Were those close in time to one another? You mentioned 2 weeks ago. Were those both 2
I
weeks?
said a few weeks ago, but the other meeting was just before I was going to testify.
Meaning, what, yesterday, the day before?
Last week.
Was that also at the DA's office?
Yes, it was.
Were you shown anything at that meeting?
Was I shown anything?
Videos, testimony, transcripts,
No,
reports?
no,
Nothing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We went over my testimony on the screen. And then I just talked about my testimony from the last time.
Okay. When you say you went over your testimony on screen, what do you mean?
We watched my testimony from the first trial on a TV screen.
Okay, so you were shown something. You were shown a video of your prior testimony.
Yes.
So I'd like to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please. You are.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Other than watching your testimony, were you shown anything else? Transcripts, videos, like videos that you may have seen today, dash cam videos, anything like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think I was shown anything.
Okay. Did you discuss other parts of your prior testimony?
Yes.
Okay. What was discussed concerning your prior testimony and how it would impact how you testify today on direct examination?
Mr. Brennan had just asked me, can you just tell me what happened? So I told him the story verbally.
Okay. Anything come up about specific instances of how you were going to testify today
No,
or yesterday?
no.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit, Ms. Roberts, about the video that you were shown by Mr. Brennan. It's the dash cam video of Officer Seraph. I'm not sure if you know which officer that is.
No, I don't.
It's the one that you've been watching.
Okay.
That dash cam that shows your car in the foreground.
Yep.
I'd like to ask you a couple of quick questions about your memory of that incident and then perhaps show you the video depending on what the answer is.
Sure.
Do you remember when the officer first arrived, you and Miss Reed specifically were at Mr. O'Keefe's body?
Yes.
Where was Miss McCabe at that moment?
She was there too, but she was waving down the first responders because it was dark out and he couldn't see us. He had a spotlight.
You and Miss Reed were both providing some level of CPR, some level of life-saving efforts.
Yes, as was Miss McCabe.
What was Miss McCabe doing?
When I was doing chest compressions and Karen was doing mouth to mouth, Jen was either on the phone with 911 or handing me baby blankets.
Okay.
At some point she did take over doing chest compressions because I asked her to.
Okay. So Miss Reed was focused on Mr. O'Keefe's head, face area.
Correct.
You were focused on the chest.
Correct.
Miss McCabe was, at some point at least, she had called 911 or dialed 911.
Yes.
When Miss McCabe dialed 911 and was on the phone with 911, isn't it true that she was actually in a vehicle at the time?
That is not true.
She was outside?
She was outside.
That's your memory?
Yes,
Okay. Have you heard the 911 tape of that call?
yes,
Okay. You're aware that that tape was also captured by an open line on Ms. Reed's phone?
yes.
That phone was dropped inside the cab of an SUV?
It was in the back seat, I believe.
Right. So in order for that for that open line to capture sort of the background of Ms. McCabe's side of the 911 call, Ms.
Yep.
McCabe would have had to have been either at or in the cab of the truck?
The back of the SUV was open. She was standing there.
Got it. Okay. So she was right next to or adjacent to the cab of the SUV.
She was in back of it with the back was up.
I see that back hatch.
Yes,
Okay. Do you remember Ms. Reed's statement, her initial statement to Officer Seraph when he got out of his patrol?
I do not.
Do you remember her saying something to the effect of, my boyfriend, I left him, he never came home?
I do not.
Okay. Have you listened with audio to that dash cam at the moment that Officer Seraph arrives at the scene and y'all flag him down?
We just watched it.
Right. Have you listened to it for the audio side? I mean, in other words, instead of focusing on the
no.
video.
No.
Okay. I'd like to ask you to do that with court's permission. This is it's been previously marked as Exhibit 4. And with court's permission, I'd like to play that from runtime about 3:50 and ask the witness to concentrate most readily at about 4:07, maybe
Okay.
10 seconds into it. I'm going to give a little run up and then ask you to listen very closely to the audio.
Yep.
With the court's permission?
Yes.
Okay, Madam. Stop. Do you recognize the video as being the same video that you saw and you looked at on direct examination?
Yes.
Okay, in just a quick second, the door to the car, you're going to hear it open. I'd like to ask you to pay special attention to the audio portion and Ms. Reed's voice,
Okay.
if you can hear it. Go ahead. Stop. Did you hear that last statement?
No.
Did you hear a woman's voice kind of?
Okay, shut up, Alan Jackson. Can you hear me now? What is going on? Just your voice that I'm missing. Is it just me? No, it's not just you. Raylene called me and was like, I can't hear you. Oh my God. Can you hear me now? She said, pick up. I think you could hear me now. I think so. Yep. Okay. Oh my gosh, that is so wild. I have no idea what happened. I have no idea. I have no idea. How embarrassing. It's not. I'm over it already.
Kind of faint in the background?
I heard a voice, but I didn't make out what she was saying.
Okay. Did it sound like she said, my boyfriend, I dropped him off and he never came home?
Objection.
Could you hear that, Ms. Roberts?
No.
Okay.
Next question.
That's all I have for the video. We can take that down. You talked about, on direct examination, some of the injuries that you saw Mr. O'Keefe having suffered, both what you observed at the scene and then what you observed later at the hospital.
Yep.
And you noted those injuries, correct?
Say it again?
you noted those injuries. Those were,
Yes.
you made note of those,
Yes.
or at least some of them. You said you saw a hematoma of some sort over his right eye. Is that right?
Correct.
And there was some significant swelling to his right eye
Correct.
at the scene.
Correct.
Did you also notice a laceration just above his right eye, just under the eyebrow?
I saw it at the hospital, but I don't know if at the scene I saw it.
Fair enough. At some point, you saw
One
that
day I need
laceration to his
things
right
to go
eye.
Yes, I
smooth,
did.
you know?
Did you also see a
when
laceration to the
everything
left
goes
side of
rough.
his nose, a smaller laceration to the left side of his nose?
I don't recall. I know there was blood coming from here, but I don't know if it was coming from inside his nose or from a laceration. I don't know.
When you're pointing to the left side of your nostril,
Yes.
and basically just above the nostril, correct?
Yes, right around the nostril, there was blood coming this way.
Okay, draining to the left side of his cheek.
Yes.
Okay. You also saw once you got to the hospital that his left eye had swollen as well,
Now both eyes were swollen and filled with what looked like blood.
and his left eye was black as well as his right eye.
Correct.
Okay. You also indicated that you saw, well, actually, I don't know if you did or not, so I don't want to put words in your mouth. I apologize. Did you see his right arm?
I did.
Did it appear to you that he had some abrasions or lacerations, parallel abrasions and lacerations and punctures on his right arm?
They were scratches.
Scratches. Ms. Roberts, you previously testified that when you arrived, let me take you back instead of jumping right into it. After you met up with Ms. Reed at Jim McCabe's house that morning, so this is just after 5 o'clock or so, the three of you arrived back at One Meadows, correct? Is that right? I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay. You're trailing the Lexus SUV, correct?
Correct.
The Lexus pulls in to the driveway and you pull in directly behind Ms. Reed and Jennifer McCabe is driving.
Correct.
You're driving your SUV, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified that when you arrived at One Meadows at that moment, that once that SUV, the Lexus SUV had pulled in and you pulled in behind the Lexus, you got out of the Lexus, sorry, you got out of your SUV, they got out of the Lexus, and that's a point at which Karen showed you the back of her taillight and said something to the effect of, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you think I hit him? Do you recall that?
I recall saying I didn't know if it was when we were coming or going, but she did point out the taillight.
Okay. When you previously testified under oath, your quote was, quote, Karen pulls in and I pull in behind her.
Mr. Jackson.
These damn sirens. They're so close to everything.
Offering statements.
Sure. It's the SGJ, the grand jury, page 58, lines 14 through 19 for court and counsel.
Thank you.
Did you testify, quote, Karen pulls in and I pull in behind her, period. When we get out, and Karen is now showing us the back of the car saying, my taillight, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you guys think I hit him? Question mark. End quote. Is that how you testified?
May I see it?
Sure. I apologize, I've already got it up here.
Does it have a date on it, Mr. Jackson?
It does. I'm sure I do.
Because in the pages after this, I say,
My question, Ms. Roberts, is.
Oh, sorry. I skipped. She gets a little the snark. This is the official
do
beginning
you
of
have the
snark.
pages after this?
I'm sure I do.
Because in the pages after this, I say,
My question, Ms. Roberts, is that a quote that I just said? Is that accurate? Do you see it in the,
yes, it is.
okay. May I approach?
Yes.
She starts to get, I don't want to say feisty, but like snarky. And
Your Honor, may I approach
Yes.
one more time?
it's out of defensiveness. It's
Just
like
for
a
reference.
natural response.
Pages, that's the page I asked you to look at, and then the following page as well.
But it's up
Please take your
to how the jury reads it and takes it in and ingests it and how it makes them feel. It's completely up to the jury. She wants context to everything. She wants to explain every single one of her answers, but this is cross-examination. And Alan Jackson wants a yes or no response.
What I'm looking for is still not here, because I did say I wasn't sure if it was
Yes.
before or after.
Ms. Roberts, you do have to wait for questions.
when you gave this testimony, you were in front of a grand jury, correct?
I'm not sure which one that is.
Do you remember testifying in front of a grand jury on April 26th, 2022?
Yes,
Okay, about 2 years ago.
yes,
Sorry, 3 years ago. You were under oath at the time. Is that right?
yes,
They were fresher in your mind at that time than they are now, 3.5 years later, I'm guessing, correct?
yes,
Okay. You were asked the question to describe the circumstance when you arrived at One Meadows. Is that right?
yes,
And the answer that you gave was, quote, we pulled into it's a driveway. There's 2 cars and then 2 cars, then a single. So John's car is there. Karen pulls in and I pull in behind her. When we get out, and Karen is now showing us the back of the back of the car, saying, my taillight, do you think I hit him? Do you think I hit him? Oh my God, do you guys think I hit him? That was your testimony at the time, correct?
yes.
And just to be clear, I'd like to take a look at a quick video that you may or may not have seen before. We'll find out. Your Honor, I'd like to have this. Actually, this has already been previously marked as Exhibit 12C as in Charlie,
Okay.
but it's a short clip. So I'll play the entire clip with the court's permission.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take a look at that video. Can you pause? Do you recognize what's depicted in the video?
Yeah, that's when we arrived at John's house.
Okay. And who's the person with the plaid red pants?
That is Jen.
And who's the person that's just rounding the back of the car in front?
That is Karen.
What is the car in front?
That's Karen's SUV.
That's the Lexus SUV.
Yes, it is.
Behind that Lexus SUV, Ms. Roberts, is there another car?
That's my car.
And who's getting out of that car?
I am.
Okay. And this is the point that you were describing in your, at least in the grand jury testimony at that time.
Yes.
This is the time that you're describing.
That I thought it was when we walked in.
This is the time that you were describing, right? When you arrive at the scene.
Yes,
Or, I'm sorry, arrive at One Meadows.
yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play this through. Okay. You can stop it. And you can bring the lights up. You saw the interaction between all 3 of you and the vehicles, correct?
Yep.
At any point, did anybody stop and take a look at the tail light or the rear end of the car?
Not when we were entering the house like I thought, but when we came out.
Okay. And there's no video of that.
I'm sorry?
There's no video of that.
No, I don't believe so.
Right. So the video that does exist describes nearly exactly the time that you testified that y'all stopped at the back of the taillight and Karen said,
Hi,
look, my taillight's
Crystalline.
broken. Oh
How
my
are
God, do you think I
you?
hit it?
Correct.
Okay. And that obviously was incorrect.
I
It
hope
was
you're
incorrect.
well.
So your memory was faulty about that incident, that part of that incident at least.
It happened on the way out of the house.
So your memory was faulty about that part of the incident that you testified to at the grand jury.
Yes,
Okay.
He got it out of her. He got that out of her. Was your memory faulty in front of the grand jury? It was faulty. I miss you too, sweetie.
You were interviewed.
Let me just take a
On
quick
January-
second to give you a fill in. I said a while ago that I was coming back, and I am. I'm not sure if you know. Crystalline, I filmed some videos and I was ready to sort of slowly get back into my other channel. But my best friend passed away, and it sort of threw everything in my life for a loop. And someone share and some other folks have been reaching out like, hello, where are you? I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still here. It's not done. The channel's not done. But I have an opportunity for something kind of like odd and sort of like completely out of left field that I've been putting a lot of time and effort into with the new job, and then having the space at my job to do this. It's just kind of been easier for this. But I am not done with that channel, but I am over here a lot, and I will be over here for a while for this whole trial. So that's where I am. So I miss you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that on my other channel, I have so many people who support and care. It's going to be the hardest thing to sort of tell that story, because that's something that I would share with y'all over there. Y'all been on the roller coaster with me for so long that it's something that, people can relate to, and there's the recognition of we're all humans and we do this thing, but we're all people and we all experience things. And I've always appreciated that part of my channel over there. So I will be back. It's just definitely more like emotional for me. And I'm getting there. After everything that has happened. The end of 2024 and beginning of 2025 was really, really difficult. 2 dogs that I dog sit also passed away, like within a month of each other. A little street cat that I was taking care of, he disappeared as well. So it was like a lot of emotions and heaviness. And I just didn't feel like that was a good time to jump back into it. Even though I wanted to, that's when I wanted to. I was ready to, I was prepared to. But yeah, I was just like, whoa, I can't right now. Like it felt like every day there was something more happening, and it wasn't conducive to me applying the focus that I need for that channel. But we're getting there.
January 29th, you've already testified to that, correct? By
Yes.
Troopers Dunn and my memory's failing me now.
There were 2. I don't know who they were.
Okay, I'm sure it's in my notes somewhere. 2 individuals that interviewed you on January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, things were very, very fresh in your mind at that point.
Yes, but I believe I was in shock. So
The incident had just happened.
yes.
Okay, and you were asked to recount certain of the specifics about the incident that you had just experienced, not days or weeks, but just hours before, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you did your best, I'm sure, Ms. Roberts, to be as full-throated as possible, to provide them with as much detailed information as you could, and to be as honest as you could.
Yes.
I mean, you weren't going to lie to these police officers, right?
No.
In your very first conversation with those 2 troopers on January 29th, you didn't mention anything about a taillight or a cracked taillight, or
No,
even
I did
having
not.
seen a cracked taillight, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I
You
didn't
then-
want to accuse anybody of anything.
You were then
Whoa.
interviewed on February
Ma'am.
1st, 2022, a few days later, correct?
I don't know.
Does that
I
sound
don't know the
right?
exact date. I was interviewed again, but I don't know the exact date.
Okay.
Full-throated. I didn't want to accuse
During
anyone.
your interview,
Yeah, you did.
let me withdraw that and ask a different question. On February 1st,
I'm just kidding. I don't know if she
whatever
did or
it
not.
was, the subsequent time that you
It's
were
just me
interviewed,
being
just a few days
sassy.
later, you did then, for the first time, describe the taillight that you saw, correct?
I don't know.
Would it refresh your recollection if you looked at a report?
Yes, please.
How does that look to you if you have, no one has ever seen a cross-examination of her. How does that look to you, Carrie, not being able to answer that question of when did you actually finally tell someone about being shown by Karen the cracked taillight of her car? Is that like, oh, well, it's been 3 years, she's talked to so many people so many times. It's understandable that she doesn't remember. Or is it like, why do you not remember? Like, that's a pretty
Let me have
important
just a moment, Your
detail.
Honor.
Sure.
We're getting there. No spoilers. This is not quite yet
May I approach?
Yes.
the height of it all. But yeah, perjury is
Hang it, 2-page report.
has been a
Roberts. I
conversation
put a little
about
dot on the second
Carrie
page,
Roberts.
just to direct your attention to the discussion related to the taillight.
Carrie.
You want to take it down?
Carrie. Karen looks sleepy.
Does that refresh your recollection that you were interviewed on February 1st, 2022 by a trooper by the name of Connor Keefe and a trooper by the name of Kathleen Prince?
Yes. Did Connor Keefe write that report?
I'm sorry?
Did Connor Keefe write that report?
Trooper Kathleen Prince wrote the report.
Okay.
Does that matter? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Then why did you ask it?
Does
Then
that
why
refresh
did you
your
ask?
recollection that you did discuss the taillight at that time?
Yes.
And did you tell Trooper Prince and Trooper Keefe that you noticed the back right taillight in the middle, quote, in the middle, your words, was broken and a piece of the metal encasement was pushed forward.
Yes,
Okay. You didn't say that the taillight was completely shattered, correct?
correct.
You didn't say that the entire lens was missing, correct?
Correct.
You said it was
Mhm.
broken in the middle. Is that
Yes.
right? And then
Fantastic
you described
question.
today that a
Crystalline
square
is
piece.
like she always hitting it. Fantastic question. I'm obsessed. I love you so much. The first trial that I think you definitely popped in when we were watching it ended in a mistrial. So the jury was split. There was no decision, no innocent, no guilty. So it went back to trial. We are in Karen Reed's second trial, and this is day 2. So like you're right on. You really didn't miss too much. Definitely catch upable like throughout the rest of court. Day 2. We are doing it all over again. There is a different prosecutor. Through working with the district attorney's office, there are new defense attorneys on board. I don't even think we've actually spoken about one of the attorneys, who like the newest of the new, but we will when we get to it. When we cross that bridge, when the bridge shows up and we're about to cross it, we'll talk about it. And then so we're getting basically a new trial, same exact charges, nothing has been dropped, nothing has been added, same exact charges. Everything ended in a mistrial, and they needed to get a second one in, her right to a speedy trial. So we're just about exactly a year later doing trial number 2. We're going to see a couple of new witnesses. We're going to see we're going to hear new things from old witnesses. So basically they couldn't decide. There's been a lot of issues back and forth between why they couldn't decide, but once it's declared a mistrial, it's a mistrial, and they got to move forward, and they got to do it all over again. And Karen Reed, the defendant, is so over it.
Piece was missing.
So over it.
Yes, that's the
Which,
piece I was
again,
referring to in the middle.
But we need to know if she's guilty or not.
Just in the middle of the taillight, though. That was how you described it.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to shift gears for a quick second and talk about
Shift the gears.
a March 7th, 2023 text message with victim witness advocate Steve Nelson. Do you remember communicating? You don't have to know the exact date, but if you do, fine. Do you remember communicating in March of 2023 with victim witness advocate Steve Nelson about the Ring camera at One Meadows?
I don't know the exact date, but yes.
Okay. Is it true that you contacted him to inform him that the O'Keefes needed to replace or wanted to replace the driveway Ring camera, that same Ring camera that we just literally saw through that perspective
Yes.
of you arriving?
Yes.
Did Mr. Nelson indicate that he believed that would be fine to replace that Ring camera if the O'Keefes wished to do that?
I don't remember if he said it would be fine, but at some point they were told they could replace it. It had broken. It wasn't working.
Did he indicate that he would check with DDA Adam Lally and then get back to you?
I don't know.
At some point, you were informed that the O'Keefes had the green light or the go-ahead camera at One Meadows. Is that right?
No sirens.
Okay.
They're between
And then
police,
ultimately, you then relayed
fire,
that to the
hospital.
O'Keefes that they had the green light. You've talked to somebody at the DA's office, and they said, "Yeah, go ahead and replace the camera." Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever receive any kind of response from the DA's office, either before or after you relayed this information to the O'Keefes, to say, "Wait, hold on, we need to do a reconstruction. We need to make sure that the camera is in the exact same spot that it was at the time of the incident"?
No.
Any communication like that?
No.
So the communication that you got was, "Yep, go ahead and replace it. It's no big deal."
Correct.
And ultimately, you learned that the O'Keefes did, in fact, replace that Ring camera.
Correct.
You have already described your relationship, at least in part, with Canton Police Officer Sergeant Michael Lang, correct?
Yes.
He is friends with you.
His daughter is friends with my daughter.
Your friend Lee with the family.
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that he's also friends with the Albert family.
No. Well, no,
Were you aware that Michael Lang grew up with Chris Albert?
I was not.
Have you ever been in a social setting with both the Lanks and the Alberts?
No.
You're aware, obviously, you were at the scene. He was the first officer to respond to the crime scene at 34 Fairview on January 29th after Officer Seraph and after Mulaney arrived. Right? Then it was Sergeant Lank.
I don't know which order. I did see Sergeant Lank there, yes.
Was he the, excuse me, sorry. I was just reminded, you indicated that you don't remember the date of that text communication between yourself and Mr. Nelson.
No, I don't remember the date.
Would it refresh your recollection if you looked at a text message between the two of you about the subject of the Ring camera?
Sure.
Okay.
Do I need to know the date?
May I approach? I need to know the date.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks.
Is it March 7th, 2023?
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. You indicated that you did recognize Sergeant Lank at the scene.
Yes, I did.
You had a conversation with him.
Nope. I said, Mike, is that you? He said yes, and that was it.
All right. Following that, the next day, you did go to his house. You've already described that.
I did.
You indicated that you went to his house to drop off your daughter for a play date. Is that right?
Yes.
But you also indicated that you took Jennifer McCabe with you.
Yes, because I drove Jen McCabe to the O'Keefe's house, so she was leaving to go home with me.
The prosecution side, so the people who are charging Karen Reed, there's a new one. So there's a new lead special prosecutor. It can get kind of confusing. He's a special prosecutor because he's actually a defense attorney that was hired by the district attorney's office to do the trial. For the district attorney's office with assistance from the district attorney's office. Now, Karen's team, they've added a couple of attorneys to it, but the main guys are still Yannetti, Jackson. The newest big guy, big guns, is Alessi. He is a wordsmith. He is, there's a thesaurus inside of his brain that is just completely endless. He's brilliant. He's very smart. He's very, I don't want to say intimidating, but intellectually intimidating, which I love, which is great. He is a nerd. Yeah, he's a nerd. He's a nerd, and we love him, and we all love him and just want to give him little kisses and hugs, because it's so soothing to the brain. It's like, just eat it up, you know. So that's really like the newest one. That's basically the team. Lally, I don't know if you remember Lally, who was the prosecutor, the assistant district attorney or something like that. He's a district attorney's attorney. He prosecuted the case last year, and he was terrible, and he was awful, and he was slow and quiet and sloggy, and it was just the worst thing. It was just terrible. It really was bad. He will be making an appearance. He is at the table. He is taking notes. He is helping with the case. We will be hearing from him. We will. Just not today though. And not for a long time, because you don't want to put the jurors to sleep.
So I was going to drop her off.
Okay, so your memory is
Because they will fall asleep.
Miss McCabe
He was an
from
idiot.
where over to the Lanks house?
I think she was at home.
He's a
So
big
you picked her
dummy.
up
Yes.
at her house
Yes.
with anybody else?
Big dummy.
With my daughter, my son. I picked up her and either one or two of her daughters. I don't remember.
And then you drove over to the Lanks house. Is that right?
No, I drove to the O'Keefe's house.
First.
Yes.
And what did you do with the O'Keefe's
Then
house?
left a couple of kids, and my daughter wanted to go to the Lanks house, so I drove my daughter to the Lanks house before driving home.
And Jen's child was with you on the way from Jen's house over to the O'Keefe's house.
Yes, one or two daughters. I don't know.
Dropped the one or two kids off at the O'Keefe's. Is that right?
As well as my son.
As well as your son. Then you went to drop off your daughter for the play date.
Well, she was 13, so it wasn't a play date.
But I don't know. What you
I
call it.
know.
I don't have a 13-year-old. What a date, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
So she went over to her friend's house. Yes.
Okay. But you took Jennifer McCabe with you
Yes, because I was driving her home.
back to her house without her kids?
Yes, she was going home.
Were you going to go back to the O'Keefe's and pick up her kids and then take all of them home?
I didn't have a plan. I mean, Patrick,
Okay.
nephew, is my son's best friend.
Got it.
So he wanted to be with him.
Okay. Did you, I think
Play
you just
date.
answered this, but I want to make sure I'm clear about it. You didn't take separate cars. You all went in the same car. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Did anybody stop by or go by 34 Fairview during that roundabout?
No,
Nobody stopped off at 34 Fairview either on the way or on the way back?
no. I don't believe so. That wouldn't be the route in which to get to my house.
Right, exactly. You indicated that you stayed, even though you were
Exactly.
dropping off your daughter.
Alan Jackson, all the defense attorneys, actually, to be fair, are really, they try to be really slick with their comments, sort of a response to the answer that they're getting. They really shouldn't. It should just be like question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It's okay to use like some sort of acknowledgement, like the answer is complete, like I'm going to the next question. But golly, Alan Jackson in particular is like, right, got it. Okay, sure. Like he just keeps going and going and going, and he shouldn't.
Y'all stayed, you
But he
and Ms.
does.
McCabe stayed at Sergeant Lank's house for some 45 minutes. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
And Sergeant Lank's wife, you indicated, was in the backseat of your car?
Yes.
Did y'all ever go inside the house?
Jen went in to go to the bathroom.
Was Sergeant Lank there?
I don't know. I didn't go in.
You didn't have any communications with Sergeant Lank?
I'm sorry?
You didn't have any communications with Sergeant Lank himself, Mike Lank, on that trip?
No, I did not.
But you don't know whether or not Jen did?
I don't know whether or not Jen did. She went in the house to go to the bathroom.
Okay. You've indicated that there have been occurrences in which Jennifer McCabe has asked you to contact the DA's office on her behalf to ask a question here or there, get some information, correct?
To Steve Nelson, yes.
Okay. How many times, just the number of times, volume, would you say that Ms. McCabe has asked you to reach out to the DA's office in one particular or another? On her behalf?
I don't think very many.
What does that mean? Of the 50 times that you've had
No,
communications?
maybe like 4, not many, to my knowledge.
When you would, on these 4 occasions or 4 or so occasions, when you would reach out to the DA's office, gather information, whatever that information may be, would you then report that information back to Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
You obviously
we
understand
go,
the importance
folks.
of providing statements to law enforcement that are free of influence of other people, other witnesses. Is that right?
Say it again?
You understand the importance of providing information to law enforcement as a witness to law enforcement free of influence from other people.
Yeah.
In other words, you want to be as accurate and as independent as possible.
Yes.
Your story, not a combined story.
And that's because if your statement is somehow, or if your communications with law enforcement are somehow influenced by others, it might call into question the credibility of the person providing the statement. Objection.
Can you answer that question, Ms. Roberts?
No.
Okay, next question.
Sure. A statement that's been colored by influence from someone else would lack credibility, right? Objection.
Sustained.
I want to talk about the statements in the prior testimony that you have provided in this case, Ms. Roberts. There's been several of them. The first time you told your story to law enforcement was on January 29th. We've already established that, correct?
Say that again?
It was on January 29th, the first time you relayed your story to law enforcement.
Yes.
And that was to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico. That's the name I couldn't remember.
I don't remember.
But you do remember Trooper Dunn.
I remember 2 troopers. I don't know their name.
Okay. Where did that interview take place?
In my dining room.
And who was with you when you gave that interview, if anybody?
My husband was home. I think my daughter was home at that point. My husband was home. I don't know if the kids were home.
Nobody else from outside the family?
No.
Okay. Who contacted you about doing that interview? How did they know to come to you at your home?
I don't remember. They may have just shown up. I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what time the interview was?
Maybe around dinner time, maybe around 5, 6.
Was it recorded?
I'm sorry?
Was it recorded in any way? Tape
I don't-
recorder running?
I don't think so.
The troopers were taking notes, obviously.
I believe so.
During your conversation with, and I'm jumping around a bit, so I apologize. During your conversation or conversations with Mr. Brennan and the DA's members of the DA's office in preparation for your testimony, were any of those interviews recorded?
No.
Was anybody taking notes?
No.
No, none of the DAs were actually taking notes. The ADAs.
I didn't look around the table to see if anyone was taking notes, but I didn't see them taking notes.
No pads and pens on the table.
There was a lot of stuff on the table, but I didn't see anybody taking notes.
Okay. You received a phone call just before that interview started at 5:25 p.m., correct?
Around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Is this the night of the 29th, you mean?
This is the night of, I'm jumping back to the night of the 29th.
Yeah, I'm not following you very well.
That's okay.
That's
On
the
the
point.
29th,
Yeah.
you were interviewed around 5:25
That's
p.m.
the point.
Maybe just a little bit before that.
Yep.
You received a phone call just before that, correct?
I do not know.
Isn't it true that Jen McCabe called you and spoke to you just before that?
I spoke to Jen McCabe the entire day.
Okay. Including just before that interview.
I don't know.
Did you tell Jen McCabe that you were about to be interviewed?
No.
Did you tell her at some
How-
point
Whoa.
that, did you,
How do you know what you did or did not say to Jen McCabe, but you don't know if you talked to her right before the interview? How do you know what you did or did not say if you can't remember having the conversation?
did you text her and tell her that the officers had arrived?
I don't think so.
Did she text you back and say, call me right after?
I don't know.
Okay. During the course of that interview, when the incident was still pretty fresh in your mind, you indicated that at about 5 a.m. you got a call from Karen Reed indicating that John never came home and that she was worried, correct?
Correct.
You also indicated that she was worried that John may be walking and may have gotten hit by a plow. You relayed that to the officers.
Yes.
You indicated that you met up with Karen Reed and Jennifer McCabe at Jennifer McCabe's house, and Karen was hysterical and worried that something had happened to John.
Yes.
You also indicated that once you were at 34 Fairview, once y'all had made your way over to 34 Fairview, Karen saw John and ran to him, although you and Jennifer didn't see him initially, correct?
That's correct.
You said that Karen was repeating the phrase, is he dead? Is he dead? Over and over. Is that right?
That is correct.
I know I have to stop pausing. I'm so sorry, but I talked about it last stream. One of the biggest hurdles this jury is going to have to get over is, but no one else saw him, right? And especially when it comes down to Karen seeing John in the snow and both Jen and Carrie saying on the stand that they did not see him, that she ran right over to him and they had no idea where she was even going because I didn't see it. And then, but when I got close, I see, it's about the exact same size as John O'Keefe, right? I don't know how the jury is going to get over that because it only implies that she had an idea of where he would be in the first place. She knew where to look. And I don't know how the jury is going to get over that.
You also indicated that she said that if anything happened to John, she'd kill herself, correct?
That's what she said to me.
Object.
So the objection sustained.
Did you indicate at any time, I'm sorry, let me ask a different way. Did either of the troopers indicate to you after your initial interview that if there was anything further that you could recall that would be useful, please provide it. Please give it to at that time.
I don't know.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to look at that January 29th report?
Sure.
You always do. I mean, that's a hard statement for a bunch of people that don't like to do what they're supposed to do, but it's the classic, if you can remember anything else, if you can think of anything else, give us a call. Here's my card. Here's my phone number. Write this down.
And I put a little mark by.
I wonder if they're going to put Karen on the stand this time. Did not put her. Yes. So that is a question. She still does have the opportunity to take the stand.
Yes.
Now, between the first trial and between the end of the first trial and the beginning of the second one, there have been multiple news interviews. Was it like a 48 hours or something like that? And an HBO documentary about the first trial, how it ended in a mistrial. And so there has been a lot, and Karen Reed has been speaking a lot to the media between the two trials. So some things can be used, some things can't be used. That becomes argued within court by both sides as to why it should or should not be used and shown to the jury. It is definitely going to apply some pressure to Karen Reed, I think, to take the stand and testify. Because if the district attorney's office, if the Commonwealth, the prosecution, all basically the same different words for the same thing, if the claiming side saying she did this is putting clips that make her look really, really bad from interviews that she did or the documentary or this or that or in front of the jury, it's going to give you the urge of, I need to tell my story. I need to tell my story. I need to tell my story. I need to take the stand, right? But I think she and her team are smart enough to just be like, obviously, no, you cannot take the stand because unless you want to go to jail. Unless you want to go to jail. Because life is on the table right now. Life in prison is on the table. I think it would be a horrible idea for her to take the stand. But I think it's definitely really interesting to see how the jury comes out, because the first trial, there was not even a hint of her voice other than on the 911 call or on the dash cam from the police officer's car. We didn't really hear her voice. But now the jury is seeing her sitting down in front of lights, in front of cameras, with her own voice, in her own body, in her own normal-esque clothes, saying things. So it can go both ways. It can go both ways. She might be able to feel like, oh, that's enough. Like my team was able to get this in, and that's exactly the thing that I wanted to say. But it could also be like, oh my God, they took this whole clip out of context, or they're making it feel like it's an icky thing and it's a real thing. So I don't know. See, Ronnie says the interview clips coming in are more than enough of Karen's own words. Yeah, there's a lot of different viewpoints of it. Like, it could be enough if the defense wants to use some really hard hitting, like, there's no way I could have done this clips. It could be like, that's enough. That's all we need. That I don't, oh, man. I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I think there are some clips that the prosecution is wanting to use that might not be as good for them as they think it is, because it's really easy for these attorneys to forget that these jurors are just normal people living in the world, experiencing good and bad things. We're just normal folks. So they can get a little attorney-headed.
Now's the time to do it.
And it may not actually work.
Were you informed that you were limited on time in that interview?
We'll see.
Meaning, we got to get this done. We're leaving. We're out of time.
No.
They didn't cut you off, correct?
No.
They didn't tell you that they had a limited amount of information that they wanted, and then they were just going to leave, correct?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
As a matter of fact, they told you that anything you wanted to provide to them, provide it. Give them as much detail as you could, correct?
I don't recall.
You just read the last statement that these troopers indicated, correct? If there's anything further she could recall that would be useful, please provide that information.
Yeah.
Sustain.
May we approach?
Yes.
All right, we're Bruce Scootin' and Boogie in.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Skip the break.
Having looked at the
We gotta
report,
keep moving.
Bring it to her and show it to her again.
she's just, it's the same thing that I just showed her. Having looked at the report, does that refresh your recollection about what Trooper Dunn and DeChico told you at the end of the interview?
I don't recall. It's not refreshing. I'm not remembering it. Even reading it, I'm not remembering it.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So as you sit here, the details about what you told or what those two officers told you are not fresh in your mind, and nothing's refreshing your recollection about that.
Right.
Okay, but you do remember the basics of what I just described in that conversation with those two troopers.
I mean, they asked me what happened. I told them, but I was also in shock.
You never said during the course of that interview that my client called you at 5 o'clock in the morning, just hours earlier, and said he's dead and then hung up, correct?
No, I don't believe I said it at that point. I did not remember that until a couple days later.
I see. And in fact, when you were asked about that particular
comments.
when you were asked about that particular series of events, that never came to your mind.
No.
That literally the first words out of Karen Reed's mouth, according to you now, is he's dead and then hung up.
Correct.
When you heard that, you didn't take that to mean that she killed him.
No.
Of course not. She was panicked, correct?
Yes.
You did add that, one other thing that you didn't add in your initial statement to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico is anything about the taillight either, correct?
Not.
Okay. And you also didn't say anything about any sort of a Google search or the praying that you talked about in the back of the patrol car, anything like that?
No. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember.
It can't be both. It can't be no or and I don't remember.
That was the February
Like,
1st
it's
interview.
just-
That was with Kathleen Prince and Connor Keith, correct? And you just looked at that report, at least part of that report. Is that right?
Say it again.
Connor Keith and Kathleen Prince that was on February 1st, 3 days after your initial statement, correct?
I don't remember the date, but I remember meeting with them.
Okay. I want to make sure I get the dates down, so I'm sorry to belabor this, but. May I approach?
Yes.
Refresh your recollection if you were looking at the report of that interview.
It might.
First paragraph.
Thanks.
The snark is like,
Am I reading the whole thing or just the part where you dotted?
Just to refresh your recollection.
Oh. Oh, for the date, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
What date was it that you met with me?
February 1st.
That second interview was conducted at 12 Country Lane, correct?
Yes.
And who again lives at 12 Country Lane?
Jennifer McCabe.
oh,
So
interesting.
the second
Huh?
time you told your memory, your story to law enforcement, you were literally sitting in Jennifer McCabe's house.
I'm still
Yes.
shocked she
And you
wasn't
had met with Jennifer
cross-examined last
McCabe
time.
before your interview, correct?
Yes. We were putting a timeline together.
So you two were actually prepping, if that's a valid.
I just give me 2 seconds to let that soak in.
In Jennifer McCabe's house.
Yes.
And you had met with Jennifer McCabe before your interview, correct?
Yes. We were putting a timeline together.
So you two were actually prepping, if that's a valid term, prepping for your interview, putting a timeline together, correct?
We were putting a timeline together at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe.
And Jennifer McCabe, was helping you with the timeline, and you were helping.
You know, the lead investigator, Mrs. O'Keefe. What the hell? Ah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
her with the timeline.
Yes, we were putting together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you, and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going
Yes.
over the event with someone else, correct?
Yep.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
It couldn't be independent. The moment you start,
Yes.
well, what happened? And then you saw, right? Oh no! And then this happened. You remember this? Like, oh my God, yes! I totally forgot that she said that in the car, and I told her to shut up 13 million times, and she just wouldn't shut up. Stupid, you know. I'm just saying, her face says it all right now. She is so pissed that she's getting cross-examined. Cross-examined.
Thank you, Rob.
Cross-examined.
So the two of you drew out some sort of a timeline for you to follow during the course of that interview. Is that right?
Just from what she said, I think that alone would have changed the first trial's outcome. I think that alone would have changed the first trial's outcome. We have a bunch of things that's going to be completely different than trial number one, but getting a cross-examination, having that information that she was at Jen McCabe's house, they were making a timeline at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe. I think that would have played a major factor in trial one, but they did not cross-examine her.
For me to follow what?
During the course of that February 1st interview, as you were interviewed in Miss McCabe's house. I mean, that was the purpose of the timeline, to help you with that interview.
No, that wasn't the purpose of the timeline.
You used it for that purpose, though, obviously.
We did not. I was at Jen's house making a timeline, and the two officers showed up to interview her. I just happened to be there.
Right. And when they interviewed you, did you have that timeline in front of you? That's my question.
No, I did not.
Okay. But you had just created it along with Jennifer McCabe.
Some of it.
Okay.
You continued after the interview?
And then it was after that that this timeline was coordinated between the two of you, that you actually told your second story to Trooper Prince. And when I say second story, I mean as of the second time you were interviewed on February 1st as opposed to January 29th. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever become aware of text messages that Jennifer McCabe was sending
Yep.
to
Same judge,
others in a group
Beverly
chat,
Pannoni.
talking about you in that interview?
No.
You were never told or became aware that she sent text messages to a group as she listened in on your interview?
No. I don't think she could listen in. She wasn't anywhere near me.
You weren't aware that or are you aware as you sit here that she sent a text message that said she's telling them everything, all the stuff?
Sustained.
Have you ever been provided a text message or told about a text message that perhaps Jennifer McCabe was sending to a group,
No.
listening to your suggesting that she was listening to your interview?
No.
The third time you told your story was later that night in a telephonic interview. Is that right? With Trooper Proctor?
I requested to speak to Trooper Proctor because I had remembered the very first time I spoke with Karen that morning, and I wanted to make sure it was recorded.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question was, did you have another telephonic conversation with Trooper Proctor, yes or no?
You said that night, but it wasn't that night.
When was it?
I think it was earlier that day.
Okay. Meaning, but it was after the interview with Trooper Prince.
I don't think so.
I think it was beforehand?
I think it was beforehand.
You were still with Jennifer McCabe when that call took place, correct?
I was in her house. I was not with her. I stepped away to speak to him by myself.
In her home at 12 Country Lane.
Correct.
Who else was with you other than Jennifer McCabe in the house?
Her sister was there writing down the timeline for
Who's
us.
that?
Her sister, Denise.
Denise? So she was scribing the timeline as you and Jennifer McCabe were creating
She
it?
was writing it down as we were remembering things.
Right. And the three of
Yes,
you were doing
that's
this
what
together,
it's
sort of communally.
Yes.
She would say something, then you would say something, then it would spark something that she would say, and back and forth, correct?
Yes.
Oh my God.
How
Why
is
does
that
it
Trooper Proctor got
seem
a
like
hold of you?
she
Did
is
you call him, or
orchestrating
did
the
he call
whole
you?
thing, or at
I
least
think she was
taking a
on the phone with
major
Jen, and I
role?
asked to speak to him.
So Trooper Proctor got a hold of you through talking to Jen McCabe.
Well, I asked to speak to him, but yes.
Right. Was that interview recorded, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
The fourth time you met with police was February 2nd, the very next day, about 12:08 p.m. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember signing a
I know they're on a roll, but I think Alan Jackson is doing a fantastic job. I'm sorry, my jaw is like locking. Alan Jackson is doing a fantastic job of catching her up. Like she's getting kind of caught up. And there's no way other than to say we made a timeline. So and so was writing it down. I called Trooper Proctor because I wanted it recorded. Jen McCabe clearly is a loose cannon in more ways than one. And I cannot wait to see that text message of she's telling them everything, da 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 da. He is also making her upset. So he's also making her upset, right? Because bringing up, oh, did you know that Jen McCabe behind your back was texting about you in a group chat that you're not a part of? So she's pissed off. Oh, I've been making friends. I became best friends with Jen McCabe. And she's so there's the real life nonsense. There's the I wasn't even cross-examined last time. This is so annoying. And here's the oh my God, I have to say these words. And now that I'm saying them out loud, I'm gonna look really bad. This is really bad for the so it's all sort of hitting her at once, and she can't do anything about it. She can't do anything about it. That was crazy. I don't remember hearing about that group chat. Nope, don't remember really hearing anything about that group chat. I have a faint memory of a she's telling them everything or he's telling them everything sort of situation, but not necessarily that coming from specifically Jen McCabe. I do remember like a message saying, oh, well, he never came in the house, that type of thing, making sure everyone knew he never came in the house. But yeah, it's a lot of new stuff. A lot of this, typically, there really is no more discovery between trial number 1 and trial number 2, especially if trial number 1 ends in a mistrial. It's like, well, we just have to do it again with a different jury. But the amount of discovery, the amount of evidence, the amount of things that have been discovered and given to both sides, because both sides need all discovery, is immense between first trial and second trial. That alone should just be like, okay, we're dropping all the charges. I'm throwing this out. But Judge Canoni did not do that. It's insane. Every witness.
consent form for your phone?
Yes.
Was that the next day after this interview with Trooper Prince and Trooper?
I don't know what day it was. It was right after Karen was arraigned for the first time. Jen and I met with them and both handed our phones over willingly.
So you just answered my question. So when you met with police, whatever the date was, it was a few days later, you met with police yet a fourth time. You were still in the presence of Jennifer McCabe when you met with police.
Yes.
And handed your phone over. Is that right?
Yes.
She handed her phone over. Is that right?
Yes.
And the two of you were together when you signed your consent forms. Is that right?
Yes.
The fifth time you told your story was in front of a grand jury. Is that right?
I don't know.
Do Do you remember testifying in front of a grand jury?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Before you testified at that grand jury,
Yeah.
just physically, you were brought into
Talk
an
about the
anteroom
grand jury.
where you waited to be called by ADA Adam Lowell, correct?
Yes.
Who was in that anteroom with you just before you gave your testimony?
My husband and Jen and Matt McCabe.
So Jennifer McCabe was with you yet again just before you gave
Yep.
official testimony under oath concerning this case and concerning the incident.
Correct.
Ms. Roberts, when was the last time you've spoken to Jennifer McCabe before you testified in this trial?
This morning.
Did you discuss your testimony?
No.
So you and Ms. McCabe, who became friends because
Correct.
of this incident,
Correct.
talked as recently as this morning before your testimony,
Correct.
and your testimony now is that you did not discuss anything about what you're doing here
No,
or what you're
I
going to
did
testify
not. She
to.
called to wish me good luck today.
When did you talk to her the last time before this morning?
I don't know, maybe.
And I just want, and I just want everyone to know that her testimony, let's say that we're watching this on the day that this was live, we're just a couple days behind. Today, when she says yesterday, her testimony started yesterday. She took the stand yesterday. We started a new day. 9 a.m., court is in session. Jen, you are still under oath because you started testifying yesterday. There should have been not a single word, not even, hello, good luck. Oh, you got this, girl. Just tell them the truth. Trash. I hate that trash.
Maybe a couple days ago. I don't remember.
Within days of you taking the stand yesterday, correct?
Yes.
This
Did
morning.
you ever?
This morning.
Yes.
You couldn't go one day. You couldn't go one day without your trauma bonded support buddy.
Ms. Roberts, I'm going to ask you.
Sucks. Couldn't go one day without just not being
To take a look
super
Actually, let me ask it a
suspicious.
different way.
And not saying that she's
Did
the
you
one who
say-
killed John. Not at all.
That you did or did not recall texting with Jen McCabe during that January 29th interview with state police. Do you recall that or no?
No.
Okay.
During the interview, I didn't text anybody.
Okay. Are you saying you didn't text anybody or you don't recall?
I don't recall. I don't think I had I wouldn't be texting somebody if I was being interviewed by the state police.
Right. Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of text messages?
Sure.
May I approach you?
Yes.
May I run the data across the two tabs, if you don't mind?
Okay.
Nope. They weren't friends at all. Knew of each other, but nowhere close. Nowhere close at all. Probably
Yeah.
didn't even have each other's phone numbers, to be honest. And then immediately, starting once John was found, they could not be separated. Attached at the hip. Attached at the hip. I talk to her all the time, almost every day. Is that because Jen McCabe? Is that because she got pulled in? This is just a random wild theory. Is that because she got pulled in the night where they needed to find John? She randomly got pulled in and Jen was not ready for it. And then Jen was like, oh shit. Okay, well, we're going to become best friends and I'm going to keep her on a short leash and I'm going to add some of my fancy manipulation, love bombing, like I remember it this way and I want to make sure that you remember it the same way type of vibe. I don't know, just a theory, not really what I believe. Just a theory, just a thought, what people are thinking, what is the jury thinking? The jury has no idea who Jen McCabe is, but they have heard her name a hell of a lot.
Okay.
And boy, when she takes the stand, is it going to be explosive?
Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like. And I forgot to tell you, anytime where it's
Did you take a look at this document?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that there were 2 text messages at around the time of your interview with those 2 troopers?
No.
Do you recall, as you sit here, texting Ms. McCabe that the state troopers were arriving or they're just getting there?
No.
Do you recall Ms. McCabe texting you anything back about calling me after?
No.
Okay. Did you, in fact, different question, did you, in fact, call Ms. McCabe right after the interview and talk to her?
I don't know.
Give me 1 second, I'll be right back.
Have you ever testified that at the scene, Ms. Reed was seated in the back of a patrol car along with Jennifer McCabe, and you were standing just outside the car, and there was an interaction among the 3 of you?
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the 3 of you to pray?
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated, where they are seated in the back of the patrol car, and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia?
No.
You've never said that.
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Late April 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know. It was 2022.
You testified under oath, correct?
Yes.
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and guilty of perjury. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Is it your testimony that you have never said that Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a portion of your grand jury testimony from that day?
It might.
May I approach?
yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you could read on to page 83 as well.
Yep. I testified. I didn't hear it, but I was told that she was asked to Google it.
You testified under oath at the grand jury that at some point Karen was in back of the police cruiser, correct?
Yep.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that question.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told the grand jury?
Yes.
And isn't it true that at some point during the course of your testimony under oath, you said that Karen was in the back of the police cruiser.
Yes.
And then you went on to describe that Karen and Jen and I were standing outside, and she made us all start holding hands and starting to pray.
Yes.
Meaning what the she being Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
And at this point, they had lifted John up and taken him onto the gurney, correct? That's
I don't
what you
know.
described.
I don't recall.
Okay. I'm going to do this again, just so we're clear. Yeah,
Yes.
sure. Just the point on the bottom of the page.
At the bottom. Yep. I say I think, so I'm not
I
positive.
have a question for you.
Okay.
Is that fresh recollection?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And you testified basically that you think, at least that's what you were telling the grand jurors, that you
Yep.
think that was the point at which they lifted John up
Yes.
and moved him into the ambulance, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
And then you were asked a question, what, if anything, did she, Ms. Reed, ask Ms. McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, correct?
Objection.
Do you recall that?
I did not hear the question about Google being asked.
That's not my question. May I ask? May I inquire?
Just repeat that question.
Sure.
That's
Is it
not my
true
question.
that you were next asked by Mr. Lally in front of the grand jury, quote, what, if anything, did she, Ms. Reed, ask Ms. McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, end quote. Remember being asked that question?
No.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to look at line 16 through 18.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection? That was the question that you were asked?
Yes.
And in response to that question, you stated, quote, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia, correct?
Mhm.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Sassy back to her.
That was very detailed. You agree that that's a very detailed and specific recount of an event. You recounted where you were, back of a cruiser, or they were in the back of a cruiser, correct?
Yep.
You reported the time. It was right around the time that you thought they were lifting John up and swooped him up onto the gurney, correct?
Yep. I thought it was about that time. I wasn't sure.
Location,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that answer. You were talking over each other.
That's my mistake.
What was your answer, Ms.
I
Robbins?
thought it was about the time they lifted him up, but I wasn't sure.
You were very detailed about who was there. It was you. It was Jen. It was my client, Karen
Yes.
Reed, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
You're so detailed that you talked about where you were standing next to the cruiser open door, correct?
Yes.
What the others were doing, holding hands and praying. Is that right?
Yes.
And the actual words used. You were detailed about all of.
She doesn't want to answer the question because she knows it will make her look bad. And this is going to be the energy for a lot of witnesses. Absolutely, for sure. Just answer the damn question. She wants to explain her answer, but now is not the time. Not during cross.
All of that as the actual words used. She asked her to Google hypothermia and how long, and then you stopped, Google hypothermia, end quote, correct?
Correct.
You will agree, at least for that purpose, you painted a very, very detailed picture in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
Yeah.
Except it's not true, is it?
I did not hear her ask that. I was told she was asked that.
The answer to my question, Ms. Roberts, and I'm not a trick question. What you told grand jurors was not true. You never heard her, my client, ask anyone to Google anything, did you?
I did not.
And yet that's what you testified to under oath, under penalty of perjury in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
I did.
And the reason you did that, the reason that you said that false statement was because someone told you to say it, correct?
Object.
Is that, I'm going to let her answer that.
Nobody told me to say it. I knew it happened at that time,
How did you
which
know
is
it
why I
happened?
said it.
How did you know it happened, Ms. Roberts, if no one told you it happened?
Because we wrote a timeline. We already spoke about
So
that.
the timeline that Jennifer McCabe helped you with, that influenced your testimony in front of the grand jury, correct? Obviously.
I was telling what happened in the back of the cruiser.
The timeline
Can answer.
you wrote.
So when you ask a question, let her answer, okay?
I hate that because, like, I hate that Judge Canoni says that to him. It's like, no, I don't need her to say this. I need her to answer my question. She's not answering my question. And I need her to answer my question. And Judge Canoni's like, they're speaking, let them speak. No. You can take anything, if you want to have things removed from the transcript, that's fine, but you cannot remove things from the jurors' ears. Once they hear it, they hear it.
Dave's help influenced your testimony to testify in front of the grand jurors to a statement that you never heard, correct?
Yes.
And there it is. It was hard to hear him. It was hard to hear him because he's away from the microphone. I think he got close to her. And the microphone's like, I think he stepped a couple steps in front of the microphone or to the side. So we'll just play that one more time.
McCabe's help influenced your testimony to testify in front of the grand jurors to a statement that you never heard, correct?
Yes.
There it is.
You were later asked about that statement in another investigation. I'm sorry, by another investigator or set of investigators, correct?
I don't know.
Were you interviewed by a different law enforcement agency, a separate law enforcement agency from the Massachusetts State Police at any time?
Yes.
And you were told
FBI.
that to lie to those agents would be a crime, correct?
Yes.
Punishable by prison, correct?
I was not told that.
They asked you whether or not you heard Karen
You
Reed
sure about
ever
that?
say anything to Jennifer McCabe about Googling anything, correct?
I don't know.
Isn't it true that you told them what you've just now told us, which is, I did not hear Karen Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google searches?
I don't recall.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a copy of that interview and that report?
Sure.
So he could not directly say the FBI in this case, in this trial. He can't say that. But he can say another law enforcement agency. Not really many more out there besides city,
I'm going to
state.
take a look at the entire document, familiarize yourself with it if you don't mind, including the front page, and don't answer anything about the document until I ask you a question, if you don't mind. Please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't just sit there and be like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. They're liars. You're calling the FBI liars now. You need to be careful. This is a report from the interview during the investigation of this case performed by the Federal Bureau of
So do
Investigation.
you recognize that as being a report of an interview that you conducted?
I've never seen this before, but
Understood. Yeah, you may never have seen it, but does it remind you that that's
Yes.
a report of a conversation you had with another law
Yes.
enforcement agency? I'm going to ask you to turn to page 7 of that report.
If I was a juror, I'd be like, FBI, 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 it's the FBI. It has to be
If
the
you look, there's a
FBI.
small paragraph, about 2 paragraphs up from the bottom. I think I might put a little blue dot by it, but I'm not sure. Please read that to yourself.
correct.
Why are you saying correct?
Done?
Yep.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Roberts. Ms. Roberts, does that refresh your recollection about what you told these investigators?
Yes.
And what you told them was you, quote, did not hear Karen Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google
That is
search.
correct.
And you went on to say you saw McCabe on her phone.
I'll allow it.
You saw McCabe on her phone, but you did not hear Karen ask Jennifer to Google anything.
Correct.
So what you told the grand jurors was in fact false.
I misunderstood Mr. Lally's question.
Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brennan, any questions?
Thank you.
So of course he does. Of course he's gonna have some clarifying questions. Of course. So what just happened was Alan Jackson taking this witness and shoving it into the face of the juror, saying she cannot be trusted. Her words cannot be trusted and they cannot be held as truth. Why? Because look at all the things she said to all of these different people. And hello, we have sat down and as a team, Carrie and Jen have just come together and made up a timeline of events. And that's what they're rolling with until the FBI comes into town and asks those same questions. And then she gets a little fearsome, a little scared. They're a little worried. Oh shoot, maybe I never actually heard her say that. So I just want to, to the FBI, I just want to make sure that you know that I never heard her actually say that. Sorry. But I did tell a grand jury that approved, that did the little check marks next to these indictments for the district attorney's office to push on Karen. So that's just a big red flag, just waving a big red flag on day 2 of the retrial. And that was a really solid
When you spoke to the
impeachment.
grand jury,
Now let's talk about perjury. Is she going to face charges for perjury? No. No. Could she? It's hard to prove malicious intent, like going out of your way to actively lie while you are under oath. So I don't think so. I mean, there's always a chance, but it's a really slim chance. She's not going to jail for perjury, but she is going to look like a liar for a really long time. And this trial just started,
about your memory, were you trying to fool them in any way?
No.
Were you trying to?
Objection.
Watch the form of your questions.
Were you trying to mislead them in any way?
Objection.
Sustain. Watch the form of your questions.
Okay, so we are back into redirect, and they cannot even lay the legal grounds of their objections. They just are allowed to say objection. So it gives us I mean, there's some very obvious times that an objection is being called, but it is up to the judge's discretion and the legal grounds. So the Commonwealth, God, what is his name? Brennan. I always forget their names. He is asking very leading questions, so very close-ended questions, like yes or no answers, when he needs to be asking open-ended questions. And when they are doing a cross-examination, he can ask the close-ended questions. He can ask the yes or no's. But now he is not supposed to, because this is his witness, so he is doing direct examination.
When you spoke to the grand jury, were you honest?
Yes.
When you were asked the question, what, if anything, did the defendant ask Ms. McCabe? Did you begin your response by saying at one point?
You can show her her response. Yes.
I don't think it's fair to just blanket, yes, I was honest to the grand jury, when you just said
Can I
you
ask you to
weren't.
look at page 83, line 19? Just read it to yourself and the lines to follow. You done? When you were asked that question by Mr. Lally at the grand jury, did you ever say you specifically, personally heard that statement?
I'll allow that.
Did you
No,
ever
I
tell
did
the
not.
grand jury you actually heard that statement being made?
I did not.
And when you spoke to the people in that report that you looked at on page 7, did you ever tell them you specifically heard that statement being made?
No.
Were you consistent in both of those statements?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you say anything different as
No.
far as what you personally observed between those statements?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
She
No.
needs to stop
when
answering
you
in the
were
middle of the
asked
damn question also.
About what the defendant may have said to Ms. McCabe or Mrs. McCabe, did you generalize your answer?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you begin your answer with at one point?
Yes.
When you chose the words at one point, what were you trying to convey to the grand jury?
I'll allow that.
I didn't know at what time it was done.
Was that a topic of conversation around the time you were brought to the grand jury?
Around the time what?
That you were brought to the grand jury to testify? This is a Google search.
I don't know.
Okay. Were you asked here in front of this jury whether or not you personally heard that statement?
Yes,
By me.
Oh.
Did I ask you that question?
no,
Did you personally hear that statement?
no.
After this happened, you discussed what had happened with people, didn't you?
I'm sorry, say it again?
After you found John lying in the snow, did you discuss what had happened, what you saw with other people?
Yes, of
Did
course.
anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss this trauma that you had been through?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Say it again?
Did anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss what you had just seen
No. Didn't say it again? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
after you found
Oh my
John
God.
that morning? Did anybody, civilian or law enforcement, ever tell you you weren't allowed to discuss what you had just went through?
No,
Did anybody ever tell you that you couldn't have support of other people?
no,
I'll allow that.
no,
Ugh.
Was this a traumatic event?
yes,
Have you spoken to it about to a number of?
yes,
Tell us why you would want to speak to somebody about what happened that morning.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I've spoken to many people, obviously, that we all grew up with. But Jen in particular, I do speak to her. I am friends with her. We went through a really traumatic
No, now you're friends
experience
with
together.
Did you ever confide in other people other than Jen McCabe about what you endured that morning?
Yes, many people,
Why?
because it helps me get through. And it's whether John's family, friends, whoever, I've talked to a number of people about it.
You're friends with John's parents?
Parents?
John's parents, the O'Keefes.
Yes.
You still friends with them?
Yes,
Do you ever discuss what happened?
yes,
You were asked by law enforcement if they could have your telephone?
yes,
Was there a warrant?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
Did you feel like you had any obligation, legal obligation, to give your phone to law enforcement?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
no. They asked for my phone. I handed it over willingly.
Did you think you had to?
No, but there was no reason not to.
When they went through your phone, do you know whether they saw all of your phone calls that were on that phone?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know. They cloned my phone, so I assume they saw everything.
Objection, please.
I'm going to strike that answer. So the answer is I don't know.
What type of information did you have on your phone when you voluntarily gave it?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Text messages, phone calls, call logs, pictures.
You said that you stayed
All
friendly
phone
and still are
things.
friendly with Peggy O'Keefe and John Sr.
Yes,
At some point, at times, do you try to help them with things?
daily.
Do you try to help them with the children?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you were asked about contacting the district attorney's office about replacing a Ring camera.
Yes.
Whose Ring camera was that?
It was at One Meadows where Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, John's parents, are now living.
What motivated you to call the district attorney's office about the Ring camera?
Because we knew the ring might be some sort of evidence that they didn't want to take the camera that was not working down without permission.
Do you have a Ring camera?
I do.
Do you know if there's a difference between the actual physical camera and the iCloud storage that keeps the actual video on it?
I don't know the difference.
Okay.
Really?
Um,
Really? You don't know the
did
difference?
you ever ask to replace any hard drives or storage, or were you asking to replace the camera itself?
Just the camera.
And that was in March 7, 2023?
I don't know when.
We just went over it. We just went over it. We just went over when all that went down. You
You
looked
were
at the
asked
text
questions
message.
about what the defendant said that morning when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes,
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her, from her, about dropping John off.
say that one more time.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her saying she dropped him off.
In the car on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
She said it to Mrs. O'Keefe.
When you were outside trying to help John, were you ever told where the defendant dropped John off?
No,
Were you ever told where he was left?
no,
Was it ever suggested that he went into 34 Fairview?
no,
Was it ever suggested that he went into any house whatsoever that morning?
no,
Were you ever asked to go into the house to look for him?
no,
When you were being interviewed by law enforcement, did you ever refuse to be interviewed?
no.
Were the interviews all the same or different?
They were all different. They were all different.
Yeah,
Were you
some
ever
of them
asked
were
to
at
get
your
a
house with
complete-
Jen. Some of them were at Jen's house. You know, some of them were in the police station with Jen. Some of them were phone calls with Jen in the room.
review in detail of everything that you knew?
I was just asked to tell me the story of what happened that morning.
And at some point when you were interviewed, you were asked about the phone calls that the defendant made to you that morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes,
When you received those phone calls, Jennifer McCabe was not on the line, was she?
no,
Was she a party to the calls?
no,
Did she influence your memory in any way about the words that the defendant spoke to you that morning?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
no,
Do you have a clear memory?
That's crazy, but she definitely refreshed your memory enough to where you wanted to make sure it was on a recorded line that Karen Reed called and said, John said, and hung up. But you couldn't remember that the first time you talked to police, like the start of the story. Well, you know, we were in a car at 5 a.m. in the middle of a blizzard, all together, freaking out, looking for John. Okay, well, how did you get there? Well, Karen called me and said John is dead, and then hung up. And then I tried to call her back and figure out what the hell was going on. Where it all started for you, you just totally just left that all out the first time. It doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense.
Their memory of what the defendant said to you on the morning of January 29th, 2022 at around 5 in the morning when she first called you.
yes.
Is it your independent memory?
I'm saying,
Is it
sorry.
your independent memory?
Yes,
How well do you remember it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Tell us what you remember her saying to you.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
when she first called, she said, John's dead, Carrie, and hung up.
And she called you back.
She called back.
When she called back, was there any other party on the line other than you and her?
No,
What do you remember the second time that she called you?
yes. She said, John, I think he got hit by a plow. He did not come home last night. He would never not have come home. I wasn't supposed to stay in Campton, and Kaylee was here. He would never leave Kaylee by herself.
And was that verbatim? Was that verbatim? Because she is saying it like it is verbatim, like she's remembering, like she can't unhear those words, right? And no cop said she called you and said that. And you never were once like, well, yeah, she called me 2 minutes earlier and said, John's dead, Carrie, and hung up. And then she called me back and said all of these things. It's like, what do you mean you just leave that on? And what do you...
Did anybody ever ask you to lie
No,
or exaggerate?
no,
Would you?
No, just
Say that?
Jen.
Would you?
no,
Sustained.
You were asked whether or not you told people on January 29th about the missing pieces to the defendant's tailor. And you began to say you didn't tell anybody that morning.
I didn't think it had anything to do with John.
You forgot a lot of
I
things.
didn't want to point fingers at anybody
Why not?
Wait,
because I had no idea what it had.
Wait. So you didn't want to point fingers at Karen. You didn't think it had anything to do with John. You left out the Karen called me and said John's dead and Carrie and hung up phone call. You opted in to leaving stuff out of your story immediately.
What had happened to him. I
Like,
wasn't going
I don't want
to
to
point fingers
bring
at
it up.
his girlfriend.
Was it in fact broken with missing pieces that morning?
Yes,
How broken? How
You saw
broken
the
was
big
it?
video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house.
yes,
Had you seen that video before today?
yes,
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When
Take any-
we took off our shoes
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
No,
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
no,
You and
they
Miss
do
McCabe?
now. They do now.
You and Miss McCabe took your shoes off?
Yes,
That's a really awesome way to not respect the deceased in their house. Well, we wear shoes in the house now that he's gone. Ugh, gross. That wasn't cute. That wasn't funny. That didn't lighten the mood. That was gross.
Did the defendant take her shoes off?
She did not,
How do you remember that?
because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
Karen did not. Karen, someone who is. So we can come at this in two different ways. She knew he was dead, so it didn't matter if she took her boots off or not. Or she was so panicked, so flustered, so worried, so concerned that she didn't even care about the ramifications of not taking her snow-covered boots off in John's pristine house. I'd rather have an argument about having water and mud and dirt in the house than not know where he is. Two different sides to that story. Two different sides. Two different viewpoints of it. How is
Do you
the
know why
jury
you
going
were
to see
called
it?
that morning?
No.
Did you volunteer to be part of this
Yes.
after the call?
Yes.
You had said you thought that you looked at the taillight before you went into John's house.
Yes.
Do you remember actually seeing the taillight that morning?
I do.
Was it simply cracked?
No.
Do you know that the portion of the Ring video from when you came out of the house with the defendant, Ms. McCabe, do you know that that portion is missing?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever seen any Ring video depicting when the defendant was showing you her missing pieces of taillight that morning?
No.
And whose fault is
Despite
that?
no video, are you certain that you saw it?
Say it again.
Are you certain that you looked at it with the
Speak up,
defendant
Brennan.
that
Can't hear
morning
you.
in that driveway?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay.
Objection.
Okay.
Do you have a distinct story?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Did I miss
Do you wish it was
something?
just a story?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's no further questions.
Okay, so recross.
Okay. Hold. Let's just go back to it.
When you first got to John and you were trying to save him that morning, do you have a distinct memory of it?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Do you wish it was just a story?
Objection.
Sustained.
There's no further questions.
Okay, so recross.
Just asked.
So I want this. It feels sort of like a callback to trial 1 of what just happened. Jen McCabe was on the stand in the first trial, and she said in a moment, like, "Oh, did you see a body? Did you see John in the snow or whatever?" And she says, "No, but I wish I had." Like, it was like a moment of and you could just see the fierceness in her whole body. But I wish I had that type of energy. If I saw him, I would have been able to help him, type of thing. And Brennan is sort of giving Jen McCabe vibe in that very end. So he says, was this a story? And she says, no, it's what happened. And he says, do you wish it was? And obviously that was sustained. That is absolutely absurd. That was a completely inappropriate question. And Alan Jackson is jumping up, not even giving it a second, not a breather, time for cross examination.
Just a few minutes ago. Did you ever say that you actually heard that statement about that Google search? And you said no.
Correct.
The question that was posed to you by Mr. Lally was, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard?
Right.
Correct?
I misunderstood the
And
question.
you misunderstood that question?
Yes.
What did you misunderstand about that question?
I didn't know it was that you heard, so I was explaining what happened in the back of the car.
I see. So you just ignored the part, literally, the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? That's what your
The word
testimony
was
is now?
heard, and I didn't hear it. I obviously got the question
it
wrong because I did not
because-
hear anybody ask about a Google search.
Well, I know that's what you're saying now.
Don't let people finish their
I get that.
sentences.
But when you were asked, what, if anything, did she ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, your immediate answer was, at one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long dash Google hypothermia, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
That was your answer,
Yes.
correct?
To a question I misunderstood.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes,
It's like being a little
technically.
bit pregnant, Ms. Roberts.
Okay, so remember, jurors, I said earlier, comments of counsel are not evidence and you're to disregard them. Ask a question.
Thank you, Your Honor. What do you mean technically?
Technically, I was under oath and I did not hear Jen.
I love Ellen Jackson so much. Do you guys want to hear that one more time? We can. So they're playing the technicality game.
Hypothermia, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
That was your answer,
Yes.
correct?
To a question I misunderstood.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes,
It's like being a little
technically.
bit pregnant, Ms. Roberts.
Okay, so remember, jurors, I said earlier, comments of counsel are not evidence and you're to disregard them. Ask a question.
Thank you, Your Honor. What do you mean technically?
Technically, I was under oath and I did not hear Jen. Karen asked Jen to Google it,
And yet under oath.
but I
you-
knew it happened at that
And yet
time.
under oath, you said you did.
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Objection.
Was that a lie? Did you lie?
I did not intentionally.
But you did.
And,
Not intentionally.
okay, that's the end of
Understood
this.
the question, Mr. Jackson.
All right, is there any other question or was that
I
it?
didn't hear what you just said.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
That's what you're saying now, correct?
That's what happened.
Fire is happening. Judge Canoni wants this to be over with. Not intentionally. Okay, Sarah Boone. Judge Canoni wants this to be so done because asked and answered, over and over and over again. No one's really, I mean, the prosecution Commonwealth is not really objecting, but the sass between the two is
the end
just
of this.
Understood the
delightful.
question, Mr. Jackson.
All right, is there any other question or was that
I
it?
didn't hear what you just said.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson.
That's what you're saying now, correct?
That's what happened.
All right,
Can I ask one more question?
okay.
Well, you told us what happened so many times, and every time it has been different. What happened versus what you heard are two very different things. And we are asking about what did you hear? What did you see? What did you do? And you're saying, well, I also know that other things happened told to me by Jen McCabe. Somebody is a liar. And again, and she is sitting there pissed off because she is not, I don't think she's intentionally trying to lie. I think she just is so full of everyone's stories, especially Jen. Her and Jen's stories are just, she cannot draw the line anymore between what she heard, what she saw, what she did versus what Jen told her what also happened. There's the memory of her specific memory of this has been altered from the very get-go, and she may not intentionally being trying to be a liar, but she is, and she looks like one now that she's taking the stand. She is cross-examined and she has said, yeah, we sat down and made a timeline. Okay, well, bitch, that's not a good goddamn idea. You know, have you never seen Criminal Minds, SVU, Law and Order, Psych, I can't even think of detective shows right now. Have you not seen any true crime anything? Did you really think that that was a good idea? And I can understand having the conversations after you're having police interviews, blah 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 blah, after the investigation, but and it's not, she didn't break a law by having conversations about something that she saw with somebody else who was also there. There's not a law broken. She wasn't held Like she wasn't under oath. She could talk to anybody, but sitting down and making a timeline and then taking the stand and not saying we made a timeline, my memory may be interrupted by Jen's and the timeline that we made together. That is when things can get wrong. When you sit there and say, this is what I saw, this is what I heard, this is the truth. But it is also what Jen saw and what Jen heard and what Jen has told me. And maybe Jen's truth, but I cannot be sure because I am not Jen. That is where things get really, really tough. She got caught up in Jen's shenanigans. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. And Alan Jackson has one more question. Well, probably like two more.
That's what you're saying now, correct?
That's what happened.
All right.
Can I ask one more question?
Okay.
In that quote, you said, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long. Then you corrected yourself and finished with Google hypothermia. What did you mean by how long? What were you about to say?
I don't recall.
Had someone told you something about a phrase that started with how long?
I don't recall. I don't recall.
Like, for instance, how long to die in cold?
I don't recall.
Okay. All right, Ms. McKay, I'm sorry, Ms. Roberts, you're all set.
Thank you.
Let me just take a quick little pause. I have to send a text message in a minute, but let's everyone put your listening ears on. Everyone put your listening ears on. Time to listen. We're listening now. Literally 17 seconds to listen.
I don't recall.
Okay. All right, Ms. McKay, I'm sorry, Ms. Roberts, you're all set.
Thank you.
Judge Beverly Cannoni said, all right, Miss McCabe, Miss Roberts. Beverly Cannoni, the Honorable Judge Beverly Cannoni, even she got pulled into the attorney mind games. Okay, Miss McCabe, God damn it, Carrie Roberts, get off the stand. Just a slip of the tongue, innocent slip of the tongue. Everyone's been talking about Jen McCabe, but whew, the jurors are itching to hear from Jen. I can feel it. So yes, we are going to, I believe, take a little break. Well, they're going to take a break. And then...
May I?
Yes.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Playing a video and then the next witness.
And is it possible to take a quick break so we can review this? There's a lot of clips. I'm not sure what this is.
They're going to take a break, then
All
play.
right, how long a clip is this?
Probably about 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
All right. We're going to ask you to take a break, and we'll bring you back in, and we'll see a 10-second clip. All right, we'll give you a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Report, all right, please. Jurors, close your books.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Follow me.
Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay, I just want to see. Sorry,
Court
I'm
is back in
here.
session. You may be seated.
Okay, the jury is back.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
When my car was seized, there was a few small pieces of tail light missing that I had picked out at John's at 5:45 before we drove over to Fairview. I'm showing Jimmy Terry, look what I just did to my light, and I'm worried that there's going to be some kind of electric short circuit. There's like the bulb is showing, and some of the red plastic's missing. So I picked pieces out of the light housing that had kind of collapsed within the light and dropped them in John's driveway.
I'd like to have that marked as an exhibit, please.
Okay.
No objection.
Right. All right. Rather than calling your next witness, who it'll take 10 minutes to bring a witness in and do all of that.
Yes,
Why
Your
don't we take the lunch and recess? I'm sorry, is the food here? Okay. Folks, we'll take a 40-minute lunch and recess, okay?
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, close your books. Put on your chairs and follow
The
me.
court, the jury, lunch.
or there were pictures of O'Keefe, I think, shown in court this morning that weren't shown on the live stream.
Mhm.
So you get to see everything.
Unfortunately, because those are very difficult photos. We have a question from, by the way,
It's possible.
all right, I think they're coming back from lunch. I want to just get the green light. We good to go back into court?
Smother.
Okay. We're getting there. The timestamp of it all is really difficult.
So, good afternoon, Mrs. O'Keefe. Yeah. All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mrs. O'Keefe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brennan.
Could you kindly introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Margaret O'Keefe. I am John O'Keefe's mother.
Are you married?
Yes,
Who are you married to?
John O'Keefe Jr.
How long have you been married?
Let me just say, so this is the third witness, and this is John O'Keefe, the decedent's mother. She did not testify last trial, but she is this trial. They're doing things different. They're rearranging the way witnesses come in. They're doing different family members. Last trial, his brother testified. I don't think his brother's going to testify this trial. Here's his mother. Please prepare yourself for emotions. If it's too much, you do not have to watch. Emotions. This is her second child to pass away out of 3 in quite traumatic fashion.
Been married for?
Too long. 53.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear you.
53. Long enough?
How long have you lived in the area?
We moved to Canton 3 years ago.
Before you moved to Canton 3 years ago, where did you live?
Braintree.
How long had you lived in Braintree for?
50 years?
Did you begin your family in Braintree?
No, we lived in Mattapan first, and that's where my daughter was born. And then we moved to Braintree.
Your daughter was born when you were in Mattapan?
Mm-hmm.
Your daughter's name?
Kristen.
How many children did you have?
3.
You, Kristen and John?
And Paul.
Is Paul the youngest, the baby?
The baby.
Did you raise your children, how long were you in Mattapan before you moved closer to here?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
How long did you live in Mattapan before you moved closer?
2 years
And then the rest of the time you were in the area?
in Braintree.
And tell me a little bit about your immediate family.
My daughter.
My daughter Kristen had a tumor, a cancerous tumor that she had for 5 months. And she died in November of 13. She had 2 children. And then 2 months after she passed, her husband passed from a heart attack. And then you all know about John. And then my son Paul is
there.
That was 2013.
Wait,
there?
I did not catch that. I have watched this before. I watched this when it was live. I didn't catch that last part though when I was listening to it. Kristen, she had a brain tumor. It was a very sudden passing. It was like 5-6 months. And then Kristen's husband passed away from a heart attack. They had 2 kids. John took those 2 kids in. His niece and nephew became his children. He became, sole guardian of these children, and he did everything for them. And that him as a person is just, that will never end. Him being a good guy, a good person, someone who loved and really found peace and joy doing the right thing. That is has ever been a question. I don't think his loyalty, his morality has ever been a question in anyone's conversations when it came to John O'Keefe. That's not why we're here. So that was tough. And then he, died in this manner as well. And then she goes, and then Paul, he's over there. Which I didn't catch. Can we just listen to it just one more time?
passed. from a heart attack. And then you all know about John. And then my son Paul is
Oh, there.
Wait, I did
That
not
was
catch that the first
2013, right?
time. Kind of
Could I
absurd.
ask
She
you
sells
about
the
her
waterworks going after 3
She
years
had,
now, but that's
two
just
children,
me.
Gabe,
Who's now 17.
That's her son, though. Youngest, but seemingly not the favorite. Look, I don't know their dynamic. I know that Paul is over there. Paul over there. That was so funny. I did not catch that. Oh my gosh.
And Patrick is 14. And he's a run for my money.
Do you remember how old the children were when your daughter passed?
3 and 6.
Terrible. So devastating.
When that
So
happened,
devastating.
was there any plan for the children?
As far as
Or what was going to happen with the children?
when she passed
Yes, ma'am.
and when he passed,
Yes, ma'am.
we decided, my son decided to be the head guardian. And then we had, I was the other guardian. And there was Steve's brother and sister were the other 2 guardians. So there's 4 of us.
May I approach to adjust the microphone?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Dr. Dusoft.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't know her. And I do know that this is a terrible situation for her. If we just pull the mom and son, there has been a loss out of all of this. You know, no conspiracies, no cops are bad, none of that. Just bad, just sad mom, dead son, terrible situation. We just dissect that from this entire case, from this whole trial. Awful. I wish on no one. My worst enemy would never wish this on them. But can I sound like a bad guy now? Please don't hate me for it. I know you can speak louder. I know you got a voice on you. You raised 3 kids. I know you got a voice on you. I am here for the emotions. The two things can be true at once. I am here for the emotions. I totally get it. This is you sat through the first trial. You're here. You're testifying on the second one. You're going to sit through the second one as well. I totally understand, but I still need you to speak up. You know, like, don't you want to be heard? It's one of those things. It's one of those things where I can't.
Did I
Can't
understand
sit
that there was a decision that
Can't sit on.
John would be the
Say it.
primary guardian? Can you share with us
Sorry
how
about
that
the sirens.
decision came about?
Well, he was single. The other 2 guardians were married, and they didn't have children, but he decided to do it himself. And then I was the second one in case he needed me. So I was over there most of the time, like when the kids get home from school, or, you know, take them places, and then have them on weekends so he could have a break. So that's what I did.
Did other people help out in addition to you and John?
Yes, my husband was there, and Paul and Erin were there, and the other.
My husband was there, just like Paul, who's over there. I just feel like she might feel like she's surrounded by incompetent men. Like, I'm getting the vibe as like all these men around her are just like so incompetent.
The other members of Steve's family.
I understand at some point John worked in law enforcement.
Yes.
Besides that, could you just
Yeah.
share just a little bit about him with us?
And she didn't have to. She could have said
He
no.
was
She did not have to testify.
a police officer at headquarters. And when he first started, he was in Hyde Park, and then he moved to Dorchester, and then into Boston itself, and that's what he did.
I was hoping if you could tell us a little bit about John.
I don't know if she is upset about testifying or if she's nervous about the possibility of a cross-examination, because it's not, I mean, it's always a possibility that they could come at her with a couple of questions, right? Spoiler alert, they don't. But I think she might have some anxiety there. But she did not have to testify. She did not have to testify. I think her sitting I honestly think her sitting in the courtroom with a box of tissues and the tears flowing and the people hugging her and the head down and the slouched over, I think that might have been enough. It might have been even way more powerful than her testifying.
John besides his work?
Because she wasn't there
He
when it happened.
was enthusiastic with sports. He was wonderful with the kids. He took care of them and did everything for them. Take them places on vacations and everything. He was there. Their
Yeah.
number one, and they called him JJ.
She was not
Would you mind if I
subpoenaed to testify.
showed you a photograph?
In my opinion, this was her saying, I want to take the stand. I want to testify. Or her sitting down with the DAs and them having the conversation of, we are doing things differently this year. We're doing, we're changing up who's testifying, when they're testifying. If we put you in, we could really weigh on the emotional factor of someone taking out a good guy, for no reason. She did such a bad thing. And on top of the bad thing, it was this really, really great guy. That type of energy, like really playing, like pulling at the heartstrings of the jury. She didn't have to testify. She didn't testify in the first one. She's like, get Paul out of there. Let me handle this. Yeah. I think they also, knowing that the jury did not like being eye to eye, face to face, unable to look away for the most part from her family, from the O'Keefes, also from the Alberts, from the troopers, from everyone who sat on her side. She was lumped in with them. Right? She was lumped in with them. And so I think maybe they also want to be like, hey, she's just a nice old woman. She's just raising all her grandkids. She's so tired because grandkids are crazy. She's helping out. She wasn't a part of the conspiracy. There's no conspiracy. They're just nice, sweet little people over there living in a community. It takes a village. It takes a village. So I think there was a lot of factors that played into her either wanting to take the stand or them sort of encouraging her to take the stand. I think from the type of people that they are, she might have said, I want to testify. I want to tell my story. They need to hear from me, John's mother, how good he was.
May I, Coach?
Yes.
I just think that's just sort of what I'm getting.
Thank you. May I introduce this as an exhibit?
Yes.
Exhibit 16.
Thank you. With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Yes.
And so,
This
do you know
was
when
John.
this picture was taken?
Oh, I really don't know. It was in the summer of I don't know what year. I really don't know the year. But is that one he probably took into a fair or an amusement park, and he had his picture taken there with them, and then the kids were with him too. So,
Do you know how old he was in that picture?
43, maybe
Okay. What year was John born?
75.
Ms. Gilman, could you take the photo down, please? How old was John when he passed?
45. My mind's not working right now.
I understand. It's okay. Can I ask you a few more questions? Okay. You let me know.
She shook her head.
I want to go back to the morning of January 29th,
She said, yeah, that's the way.
2022. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Were you home
I was home in Braintree.
in Braintree?
Mhm.
Who were you with?
My husband.
Did you receive a phone call?
Yes, from Carrie Roberts. It was about 6:15, between 6:15 and 6:30 in the morning.
Did you know Carrie Roberts?
Yes,
How did you know her?
she lived in Braintree for a while. John and her were friends. They went to the junior prom together. And then we found out that she moved. She lived in Canton, and she was around.
Did we catch that? Did we catch that? Did we catch that? Just play. I'll just play one more time. I'll just play one more time.
Yes.
How did you know her?
She lived in Braintree for a while. John and her were friends. They went to the junior prom together. And then we found out.
John and Carrie went to junior prom together. Now, I'm not going to turn this into a big thing. But I distinctly remember Carrie saying that her and John were like barely friends, like they were like they were barely friends in like school, like they knew each other. They weren't that close. They went to junior prom together. Okay. Like, how together did you go to junior prom?
Found out that she moved. She lived in Canton, and she was around the corner from us, and she helped us out with the kids.
And when you would help him take care of the kids, would you often see Miss Roberts?
Yeah, because she'd take Patrick and her son Ryan places. And yeah, so I saw her all the time.
Often?
Yeah.
When she called you that morning, do you remember the
Very
conversation?
valuable.
Yeah, she said John was found in a snowbank. And I didn't understand, which I said, what do you mean found in a snowbank? She's like, found him in the snow. They don't know what happened. She says he's brought up to the Good Samaritan Hospital. So she says, I'm going to come get you and Papa because I don't want you driving. And I says, we can drive there. We both have four-wheel drives. She says, no, I'm coming. So she came to get us. And it took a while to get there because the snow was bad. And in the meantime, I had called one of my nieces to find out because one of my other nieces worked at Good Samaritan. I just wanted to know if she could find out anything about it. And I just couldn't get a hold of her. So when we get up there, they told us to sit in this room and they would bring us down shortly. So finally they said, okay, you can go down. So we started walking down the corridor. And as I'm walking down, I hear Karen Reed yell, Peg, is he dead? Is he dead, Peg? Peg, is he dead? And I just kept walking. And then I asked, I don't know who it was, a nurse or a worker at the hospital. And I said, what is she doing here? And she said, oh, she's being psych evaluated. So then they brought us down to the room where my son was.
A nurse is just telling you that she was.
He's bruised up. His eyes were closed.
I want to know who that nurse was who's just giving out people's medical reasons of being in a hospital. I would love to know who that nurse is because they shouldn't be a nurse or nursing or doing those types of things, period. What do you mean? You're just hollering down the hallway about who's here and why they're. Oh, she's being mentally evaluated. What? No, shut up. Who are you to tell? No.
It's just not a good scene.
Okay. I'd like to go back, if I may.
Okay.
May I?
Yep.
When Kerry Roberts picked you up in the car, did anybody go with you and Miss Roberts on the drive from your home in Braintree to Good Samaritan Hospital?
No, we were the only three in the car.
Who was the third person?
My husband.
During the drive to Good Samaritan Hospital that morning,
Yep.
did you ever have a chance while you were in the car to speak to the defendant?
Yes.
Please tell the jury about that conversation.
She, I asked her what happened, and she said, we went to a party. I left him there. I said, you just left him there? She said, yes, I just left him there.
Did she say whether she left him inside or outside?
No, she.
Well, yeah, I also just left my grown ass man boyfriend at work today. Yeah, I left him because he's grown. So he went, he got out of the car, and I left. I left him at work. I dropped him off. What do you mean? Like, yeah, because that's where he didn't want to go, but he had to go. That's where he is. And then I left. I left. Yeah, because he's a grown ass man. I walk in with him and make sure he clocked in on time. What do you mean? I'm not gonna. Yeah, I just left him because he wasn't responding to my text messages and or the phone calls, and I told him I didn't want to be here, and he's not coming out, and he's in a house full of police officers and wives and friends, and he's fine. I left him. Yeah, he's grown. He made
She
his
just said I
decision
left
by
him
not
there.
coming back
Did she
out.
tell you whether or not she left
You know,
them in
like-
the driveway or the street?
She just said, no, I just left him there.
You told us that when you got into Good Samaritan Hospital, you were walking down the hallway and you had another interaction with the defendant.
Yes.
And you told us that she was asking if he was dead.
hmm
Can you describe a little bit where in the hospital you had this interaction with her?
When they took us down to the emergency room, the doors open, and there was a corridor to go down to the other rooms, and she was on the left-hand side, and that's when she saw me come in, and that's when she started yelling, "Is he dead, Peg? Is he dead, Peg?"
So when she was yelling, could you describe her mood or demeanor? Was she animated?
She's loud, and I don't know. She was just loud, and as she was saying it.
And when she was asking you, is he dead? Is he dead? Did you again ask her a question?
I just asked the nurse, what is she doing here?
Okay. And did you speak to Miss Reed herself?
No. No.
At some point, and you and your husband got to see John?
Yes.
And
Paul.
were you with Kerry at some point?
Kerry was there, and then my son Paul was there.
How did you get home?
I think I went home with Paul, and I think my husband went home with Kerry. We went back to Canton at the time.
Do you remember generally the time frame? Was it morning, afternoon, evening?
No, it was morning.
Do you remember getting home that day?
Yep. It was snowy, icy.
Was anybody home when you got
No.
back?
No, it was just us.
John's
And then the
house.
kids started coming home. And that's when I was trying to, take care of them.
One
And then
Meadows.
there was a knock at the
John's
door.
house.
And it was Karen, her father, and her brother asked
Because
if they could come in. And I was just trying to.
they didn't, because that doesn't make any sense. He's not clarifying. If the kids are coming home, they're coming home to John's house, not all the way out to Braintree, because it's still a blizzard.
The kids, because
Or
Patrick was just
starting
out
to
of
let up.
control, yelling. And then they came in,
I believe it.
and then he said, "Do you mind if we go upstairs and get a couple of her things?" Which I never should have let them go up there, but at the time I just couldn't think straight, and I really didn't have anybody else to help me keep them down in the kitchen. So I don't know what they got up there, what they did up there.
How long were they, when you say upstairs, do you know what room they went to?
I
Why-
assumed the bedroom.
So I'm going to strike that, Mrs. O'Keefe. If you could just, what you actually know, and Mr. Brennan can ask a better question.
Thank you. Could I
Mr.
leave it?
Brennan can ask a better question.
Ma'am, how many rooms are upstairs in John's home?
1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms and an office. And off the master bedroom, there's a bathroom, and then there's a closet. The big house.
Did you see the defendant and her father go upstairs?
I didn't really see them go up, but I knew they were up there because I could hear them.
You didn't follow them up or go to look?
No.
You didn't know which room or rooms they were in?
No, I'm assuming the bathroom and the master bed.
My question was poor. You didn't see which rooms they actually went in?
No.
How long was the defendant upstairs in John's home with her father?
I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Did you see them come back down?
No, I did not.
Okay, so
When
you
they
didn't see
were
them go up, or
upstairs,
you
what
didn't
were
see them
you
come
doing?
down?
I was trying to calm the kids.
Both of them?
But yeah, well, mainly Patrick.
How was Patrick reacting?
He was very upset once we told him because he slept over a friend's house the night before, and he just said, "I'll never see him again." Sorry.
Would you like a moment?
Yeah, it's very sad. That's extremely, I mean, for anyone, you losing someone super close to.
Mrs. O'Keefe, would you like to take a short break?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
You can just let me know when you're ready. Take your time.
Okay, go ahead.
You ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. That morning, when the defendant and her father came into your home, Did you personally interact with the defendant?
Nope.
Oh,
Was there any hugs, condolences?
okay.
Nope.
Did you ever confront the defendant
Okay.
with any accusations when she was in your home that morning?
I don't even remember her being in the house. When she went upstairs, that's the last I saw of her.
Did you ever lean over a kitchen island? Do you have a kitchen island in your house?
No.
Did you ever lean over the kitchen island and say, I think he looks like he got hit by a car?
No. I don't remember talking to her that morning.
Did you see when she left?
Nope.
Did you ever see her Lexus in the driveway?
Nope.
The children, who's their guardian and custodian now?
Well, there's still 4 of us. 4 of us.
Where do they live?
One in Boston, one in Stoughton, and Paul's in Bridgewater, and me,
Where do the children live?
with me, in Canton.
They live with you full time?
Yes,
You're their primary caretaker?
yes.
Thank you.
So she's now living in John's house on One Meadows, in Canton.
Okay.
Cross-examination.
Mrs. O'Keefe, I'm very, very sorry for your loss. I have no questions for you.
All right, Mrs. O'Keefe, you're all set.
Thank you.
Ready to put up so.
Okay, no questions. Sorry for your loss. Next witness.
Both clips 4 and 5 are on that zip drive.
Okay.
Playing some clips for the jury. Playing some clips for the jury.
I don't know what they are. Sir, second.
Oh. And yes, she does get to go sit back down and watch the rest of the trial. There are specialized for the most part. If you're testifying in a trial, you don't get to watch the trial. But there are.
Follow me.
Oh, they're going to take a break. They are going to. Let's watch it. The jury is out of the room. The jury is out of the room, but we will watch this anyway. She's allowed to, special circumstances. She's allowed to sit there and watch the trial from beginning to end.
So, Ms. Gilman, if you play that first one, please.
They had pulled into the driveway before me, so I was presuming she saw my cracked taillight and was thinking, did you hit my son? I would sense from her that she was looking at me very warily. And then when John's nephew came home, I just wanted to see him and squeeze him. It was quite uncomfortable. I said, Dad, come upstairs to the master bedroom. I said, I think I need to leave. I said, I think John's mother thinks I did something to John.
All right, so tell me why I should admit that clip.
You should admit this clip because it demonstrates consciousness of guilt. On the morning of John's death, Ms. O'Keefe sees her son at the hospital and goes back to Mr. O'Keefe's home.
Okay, I'm going to skip this only because the jury is not in the room. And let's watch the second clip that they want to show to the
Okay,
jury.
so let's hear.
And his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think it looks like he got hit by a car. It looks like he got hit by a car.
Okay, so tell me how this comes in.
Similarly, in conscious of guilt evidence, the defendant making what we allege is a false statement to try to excuse her conduct of
Yes, please.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce clip number 4.
Okay, so just where we're at, we watched two clips that the Commonwealth wants to bring in and share to the jury. Those two clips the Commonwealth wants to show to the jury. The jury was on break. They were out of the room. They argued back and forth. They argued about the first one, argued about the second one. The first one is coming in right now. The jury is seated, and they're watching this clip for the first time.
They had pulled into the driveway before me, so I was presuming she saw my cracked ceiling and was thinking, did you hit my son? I could sense from her that she was looking at me very warily. And then when John's nephew came home, I just wanted to see him and squeeze him. It was quite uncomfortable. I sit down upstairs to the master bedroom. I said, I think I need to leave. I said, I think John's mother thinks I did something to John.
May I call my next witness, Your Honor?
Please.
The Commonwealth calls Nicholas Guarino.
Okay. Next witness is Nicholas Guarino, who is infamous in more ways than one when it comes to massive cases in this jurisdiction. Do you remember the other case in Canton where it was a young girl who was pregnant by a police officer and it turns out that he killed her? I have forgotten the name. I always forget the names of things. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. He was the officer who was in charge of finding text messages between the two and somehow missed like 30,000 text messages. He also missed a bunch of stuff in this trial as well. Nicholas Guarino is the one who sat on the stand last trial and under his breath, the hot little hot spicy mic moment, exhaled and said, "Kill me," into the microphone. We all heard it. We all saw it. We watched it over and over and over and over again. The clips were everywhere. This man is going to be heard and seen a lot in this trial. He is the text message reader. So with text messages between Karen Reed and others, between John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, between John O'Keefe and others, he will be reading text messages. They will be monotone as possible. They will be probably stumbled over because that's just him. But he is back, baby. He is back. And boy, are we looking forward to it.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes. My name is Nicholas Guarino.
Mr. Guarino, where do you work?
I work the Massachusetts State Police at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
How long have you worked for the Massachusetts State Police for?
This is year 10 now.
How long have you been assigned to the District Attorney's Office for?
Since November of 2019, so 5-ish years, 6 years.
I want to go backwards a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did before you began working for the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, sir. I was a Norwood police officer for almost 11 years.
So how long have you been in law enforcement between being a Norwood police officer and a Massachusetts State Police officer?
February of this year, started my 20th year in law enforcement.
Did you go to school before you became a law enforcement officer?
Yes, I went to Westfield State College, Westfield State University now.
Did you graduate?
Yes, I did.
Can you remember what year you
We are
graduated in?
Yes, it was 2003.
Did you have a particular degree from Westfield State?
Yes, I double majored. I've got a major in criminal justice and mass communications.
When you began as a police officer with the Norwood Police Department, did you have to go into any type of specific training?
Yes, I went to the police academy.
And how long is the police academy?
6 months.
Generally and briefly, what was taught at the academy?
How to conduct investigations, respond to calls. They did a standard field sobriety testing week, physical training, Massachusetts law and criminal procedure.
When you began as a Norwood police officer, were you a patrol officer?
Yes, I was.
And did you remain a patrol officer for the 10 or 11 years you were there?
Yes, I was also part-time in the detail office, but
What does that mean?
handling jobs when we're off. So filling details like road construction, I'm sorry.
When you left Norwood and began working with the Massachusetts State Police, based on your prior training, did you have to go through further training, or were you ready to just begin?
No, I had to go to the State Police Academy for 6 months.
After you got out of the State Police Academy, were you assigned to a barracks?
Yes, I was assigned to the South Boston Barracks for my training. And then once my break-in training was done, I was assigned to the Holden Barracks near Worcester.
At some point during your time, your career with the Massachusetts State Police, did you start to receive any type of training in the specific field?
I'm sorry.
Did you receive any specialized training at the Massachusetts State Police after the academy?
Once I got into the district attorney's office, yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what type of specialized training you received when you were assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office?
Yes. So I was hired by the district attorney's office. I do cell phone and computer forensics, as well as I'm a sexual assault investigator. I had prior sexual assault investigator school done, and I went for digital forensics classes as part of my now daily duties.
In order to work with cell phone forensics, did you have any particular background in it at that point?
I had taken some classes when I was at Nord PD, but I didn't have any of the Cellbrite or Axiom classes that I do now.
We'll talk about those in a minute so you can give a little more explanation. Did you ever receive a specific advanced degree in data forensics?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever receive any specialized further degree, a master's in data forensics?
No.
So your training came while you were a Massachusetts State Police officer through the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, that's correct.
What type of courses did you take to learn about forensics?
The first one I took was Cellbrite certified CCO, CCPA is their intro course that teaches you how to use the program, how to extract cell phones using Cellbrite program.
There's a couple words I want you to help us understand.
Yes.
The first is an extraction. What is, as simple as you can, a cell phone extraction?
Yes. Quite literally plugging the phone into specialized hardware or software, and it pulls the data from that device to make a digital copy of it, so that way we can load it up later to look at it.
So when you extract the phone through a download, it basically mimics the content of the phone, but it's in a different shell. It's in a different form than inside the actual phone itself.
Yes, exactly. That way we're not manipulating or changing any data while looking, because if we were to open the device, it would change data by going through the phone itself or computer.
When you plug it in, can you explain a little bit about what you're plugging it into?
Yes. So the main program and hardware that we use is Gray Key. It is, again, specialized software and hardware that once the phone's plugged into it, the software is able to extract the information if we have the passcode. If we don't have the passcode and the phone is supported, it's able to guess that passcode depending on how long. Like for an iPhone, if you have a 4-digit, it could take months. If you have a 6-digit, it could take up to 35 years.
So does the phone have to be accessible to actually do that download through Gray Key? Do you have to be able to open the phone with the passcode?
No. So if we don't have the passcode and it's supported, it can guess the passcode without making the phone useless after, say, for an iPhone, it's 10 passcodes.
Is it a quicker process if you do have the passcode?
Much. It would take hours to download the device, depending on how much information's on it.
How do you ensure that the information that you extract from the actual device is accurate and the same when you're making a copy? How do you ensure the integrity of it?
So with Gray Key, it produces a progress report as it goes through its process. The only two fields that we can sort of amend in that PDF that it spits out is the ID number and then the investigator name. So after the data is pulled out, it creates a hash value, which is like a digital fingerprint for that specific information. So if you had gone in and to edit or change it, that digital fingerprint would change. It would change the big long string of numbers that it attaches to that file.
The digital fingerprint, is that the same thing you're referring to as the hash value?
Yes, exactly.
And how do you ensure that the hash value of the product, the copy, is the same as what's on the phone?
You can run the zip file that it creates with the information into a hash calculator, and it will give the same hash as what is produced from the Gray Key PDF report. So if something had changed or there was an error with it, the hash would not be the same as what was given from the PDF. And that's how we know that the data was not the same.
So if you download a phone and it has a hash value, this digital fingerprint, and then someone was to manipulate the phone and remove anything, even a period, from that data, if it's run again, will the hash value change?
Yes, it would not be the same because it will show.
Even if it's just a period?
Yes, any alteration to that initial extraction with that number, it immediately would change.
So if you have an item, a computer or a phone, and you put it through the Gray Key program, and you do an extraction, a copy, where do you store that copy of information if it's not on the phone that you originally have? What do you do with it?
So once the program pulls that information, we have to place it onto our secure server at the office, and we'll take any of the files that were given via the extraction process, and it's saved there for us.
And so you copy it on another link or another digital file?
Yes, we'll save it to the server at the district attorney's office.
Can it be put on a physical item, like a zip drive or a hard drive?
Yes.
If you put that download onto a zip drive or hard drive, how will you know if that information on the hard drive matches the same information you originally downloaded from the phone to the server through GrayKey?
Again, like I said, you could run the hash value of that file again to correlate it with the PDF that we were given once GrayKey has given us the information. So that's how you would know all the information is the same, nothing has changed.
So for example, if you download an iPhone and it has that digital fingerprint hash value attached to it, and you make a copy or multiple copies, is the way to test whether or not those copies are exactly accurate is to look at the hash value of each copy?
Yes, and copying the zip file would not change the hash value. The only way it would change is if you physically went into it and deleted information somehow.
So now that you have the item, say for example an iPhone, and you've downloaded it through GrayKey, which is hardware and software, and it's on a digital file, can you just open it up and start reading it like a report or a book, or do you have to do something else to it?
No, once it's pulled into that zip file, it has to be opened into another program, which there are many forensic tools, but the ones at the office we use are Cellbrite or Axiom. They're just two brands, and then those programs make that information readable so we can actually look at it.
So if you were to download a forensic copy and you were to open it up without using that subsequent software, would you be able to read or see anything that's on that data?
To be honest, I don't know because I've never opened one of those zip files to know what's actually in them.
After the extraction happens, after there's that copy made, did you mention there's further software you would use to be able to actually read the data?
Yes, so that's Cellbrite and Axiom. They're two different programs, but those programs will make the information readable.
Are those the programs that you typically use?
Yes, they are. And there's other programs out there, but those are the two that we normally use at the office.
Are they commonly used in the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, they are.
Are there other programs beyond Axiom and Cellbrite that can be used to decipher the information so you can read it?
Yes, there's many.
In your entire time with the Massachusetts State Police, have you used any other programs other than Axiom or Cellbrite?
To look at cell phones?
Yes.
We have Sanderson forensic software that can look at databases that are in the phone to look at information. I don't normally use those because I don't want to say, I'm probably not proficient enough that I would know this exactly means this, or I wouldn't want to confuse anything that I'm looking at.
When you look at the information after it's been through the extraction and then the analysis through the software, is the data still available if you want to look into the data?
From the zip file itself, sir?
Yes.
Yes, it's always available. It's, like I said, the data in the zip file that GrayKey gives us is never changed. It's just being loaded into another program so we can see it.
Do the software that you use, whether it's Cellbrite or Axiom, does that do the work for you as a forensic examiner?
Yes, so it runs, as the program runs, I should say, it will bring up different tabs. So say phone calls, chats, photos, the databases, all different things that Cellbrite, their software, has run to pull this information out to make it easier for investigators to find what they're looking for.
Beyond the initial report that you can look at and look for the information, if you wanted to as a data forensic examiner, could you look deeper beyond the production of those software programs?
Yes, you could.
Forensic data analysis, when you look at these tools that provide these initial reports, is that the beginning or does it dig deeper when you're a digital forensic analyst?
No, these reports are finding the low-hanging fruit in the proverbial tree. So that's showing you the stuff that the program is set that most people are looking for. As I said, the phone calls, the chats. If you need to go deeper into it, as I said, there's other software out there where you can pull these databases and try to go through the code to find what you're looking for. Once you find something, you would have to corroborate it with other evidence or data to make sure what you're looking at is exactly what you're looking for.
Have you been involved in the download, extraction, and analyzing data on phones as your role with the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes, that's my primary role in the DA's office currently.
And how many years have you been in that role?
Since November of 2019, so 5 years now.
Have you worked on a number of different cases that involve forensic data?
Yes, I have.
Is there a routine or a practice in your present role when you make a copy about what process you use and how you produce it in a case?
I wouldn't say there's a normal process. It's all case dependent. A lot of cases we get, people want PDFs of the information, portable cases that we can create. So it's basically the portable program that I'm using. That way someone can find the information they're looking for, or I give the raw information if requested.
What's the difference between PDF form and raw information?
So Cellbrite can create a PDF form of every bit of information in the phone. It could be like a 10,000 page PDF. It literally just lists everything that's in there. If I create a portable case, as I said, that is basically like me giving you the thumb drive, and it's showing you exactly what I'm seeing, and you can click on the tabs yourself from your own computer. And then if I give the raw file, that means someone has to go in and load it themselves to look for it.
Typically, when you are producing evidence of discovery in a case, do you produce PDF or the raw file?
As I said, it's all case dependent. Not all cases have forensic experts to come in to look at the information. So I'll supply whatever is requested. Normally the PDF or the portable case is what I give, but if more is requested, that's readily available.
And so the raw data if requested, do you provide that as well?
Yes, if requested.
In this case, were you involved in any type of forensic data extraction?
Yes, I did the extractions of multiple phones and analyzed multiple phones in this case.
You mentioned that there's a software and hardware, the gray key unit. Where's that located?
That's located in the Digital Forensics Laboratory, which is key card access and alarmed. Excuse me, at the Norfolk DA's office.
Are there other cases or the multiple cases that are occurring at the same time?
Yes, we constantly have phones coming in and out and being worked on.
What if you have a phone and the gray key unit's being used? What do you need to do?
We need to wait for that phone to finish, because if we say we unplugged it, it would interrupt that data transfer and we could lose it. So we wait until the phone's done and then the next phone goes up.
Did you become involved in some way in this case?
Downloading devices, sir?
Well, I'm asking generally first.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
Were you involved in investigating this case as far as speaking to witnesses or going to the scene?
No.
Can you describe best you can what your role was relative to this case?
Yes, so I was brought, as I said, phones from this case to have the
Everything
data
he
extracted
just said
and then have it ready in
is what he
our
did.
Cellbrite program for the investigators to look at.
At some point, were you provided a phone that you later identified as a phone belonging to Mr. John O'Keefe?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember when you were provided that phone?
Yes, it would be January 29th, 2022, about 7:30 p.m. that night.
Do you remember where you received that phone from?
Yes, I was at the DA's office. I got it from Sergeant Buchanan and Michael Proctor.
Do you remember about what time of night that was?
As I said, about 7 to 7:30 p.m.
Thank you. When you received that phone, did you have the passcode?
No, we didn't.
Without the passcode, what were your next steps?
So the phone was placed in our digital forensics lab until we could get the passcode. I was told that a family member was going to be bringing it in so we could download the device.
Did you ultimately get that passcode?
Yes, we did.
And do you remember when you received it?
January 31st, 2022.
After you received the passcode for Mr. O'Keefe's phone, can you walk us through the process of what you did?
Yep. So once the passcode is obtained, we'll unlock the phone and then plug it into GrayKey, and then it's able to pull the full information from it without having to guess the passcode.
How long?
Passcodes are really important on your phones. If you if you have to give your phone to police and you have a 4-digit passcode, it's going to get cracked pretty fast. It's going to get cracked pretty quick. So the more digits you have in your passcode, the longer it could potentially take for your phone to be cracked by officers and their equipment that they use, like Cellbrite, GrayKey, to get into your phone. So if you have 6 numbers, 8 numbers, 15 numbers, just something to
How long
think
does that take?
about.
Again, depending on the size of the phone, a few hours.
After the information was downloaded, then what happened?
We place on our digital evidence server at the DA's office, and then if the phone is evidence, it would go into evidence. If it was a consent, we'd give it back to the person who gave it to us immediately.
Did this phone go into evidence?
Yes, it did.
When you downloaded the information through GrayKey, which you said was the hardware and software, does it produce a report with that digital imprint?
Yes, it does. It produces a report from the time you plug it in to the process it completes, and then the amount of data, and then, like I said, that digital fingerprint hash value at the end.
And did you do that with this phone, Mr. O'Keefe's
Yes,
phone? May I
I did.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Highlight. I'm going to show you. I'm sorry. Both pages, please. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the,
I'll just ask you a couple more questions, if you don't mind. What is it?
it's the Great Key progress report that they give once the phone extractions are completed.
Do you recognize that as the report that is attributed to John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes,
And does that document have that digital imprint, the digital fingerprint that you were talking about?
yes. So it's in, yeah, so it's here on the back. I just want to see if it was in two places. But it would be here for the, sorry, it's got cut off, but
Go ahead, put it up on the exhibit so we can check.
Okay.
I'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please. No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Is it 18th of March?
May I show that exhibit to the jury? May I approach the witness to show him the pointer?
Yes.
Oops.
On this top button will be the pointer, the middle button will change the screen, so.
Oh.
Top button, please. Can you walk us through what this report means?
Yep, so here at the top, here it is. Again, it says Great Key progress report, and then it gives the report generation, date and time, and it is in UTC, which is, get the exact definition, universal time coordinates, I believe. So you'd have to minus 4 or 5 hours depending on daylight savings time. So this one would have been January's -5. 1610 will be 1 noon, 12 o'clock for the actual time on the 31st. As you go down, device name is Johnny. The software version is the Apple iOS that was running at the time. Model number, iPhone 11. And then if you were to look up the N104AP is also a model number. The unique device ID. This one is what Great Key assigns to the zip file that it creates. The serial number of the phone, the unique chip ID, the Wi-Fi address, the Bluetooth address, and then the phone number. And then there's more information underneath.
Could we scroll that, please? Thank you.
This here is the IMEI, which is the International Mobile Equipment Identifier. It's not uncommon now to have multiple of those identifying numbers. The data partition size of the device, which is 83 gigabytes. The lock state, if the phone was locked, it would say locked. This one is unlocked, so we have the passcode. This was the Great Key agent version for the software. And then this is the last time that the phone was backed up via iTunes or iCloud. This is the owner's name. You can have anything in this, but his phone had John O'Keefe set as the iPhone owner name, and then the different accounts attributed to the phone.
Okay, can you show us where the digital fingerprint is?
Yep, it's down. So that the top part here is literally every time when it's plugged in to every process that it completes until the progress report is generated. Here is the full file system was created on this date and time, and then even though the partition size was 82 gigabytes, it actually pulled 125 gigabytes of data. Underneath this, if you're on the next page, is that unique fingerprints right here. So it has two, a SHA-256 and an MD5. They're just two versions of hashing to show that the file, the unique fingerprints, and that's what these numbers are here. So there's one for the image of the extraction, and then one for the keychain for the other documents that Great Key creates.
That's a terrible
And you
point.
mentioned that if anything has changed, even a period, that number and letter sequence will change as well?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Did you have an opportunity to download and extract any other phones?
Yes,
At some point, did you have an opportunity to download and extract a phone from the defendant?
yes, I did.
Do you remember when you received that phone?
I got the phone the same time as I got Mr. O'Keefe's phone on the 29th at around 7:30 at night.
And so you received both phones at the same time
Yes,
from the same people?
correct.
Trooper Buchanan?
Yes,
Trooper Proctor?
yes.
What did you do with that phone?
Again, that was brought down to the digital forensics lab for holding until we could get into it, or a warrant was written, or whatever legal process was going to be done, so we could get that information.
Do you secure it?
Yes, that room is locked with keycard access that only myself and two others have, and it's also alarmed.
Do the case officers or investigators that aren't part of your unit have access to those items?
No, the only ones that had access were myself, Trooper Connor Keefe, and then the Director Samantha Vogt. She's a civilian that runs our lab.
Okay. And at that point, were you able, after there was process, were you able to get into the phone at first?
No, it wasn't supported by Great Key, phone model and number.
What do you mean it wasn't supported?
So the software, even if we had a search warrant, we plugged it in, Great Key wouldn't be able to recognize it because it just wasn't supported at that time.
When you say it wasn't supported, does that have anything to do with a passcode?
For both. So we didn't have the passcode, so because we didn't have it, it wasn't supported for us to download that information from the device.
If you had a passcode, would it have been supported?
Yes, it would have been.
So is there a process when you have a phone?
did not
that
have
you
the
don't
passcode for
to
Karen
be able
Reed's
to access the
phone.
content of the phone?
Yes, that's correct. We have to wait until we either have the passcode or the software and hardware is supported for the device where it can try to guess the passcode.
So let me ask you some questions about software. In forensic data analysis, does software change frequently?
Constantly.
So
When the software
So there was no passcode. They didn't have the passcode for Karen Reed's phone. And I'm sure they could get like a warrant to get the passcode and like, hey, you have to give us the passcode for this phone. But they didn't have the passcode, and Gray Key could not support that phone model, whatever phone she had, to break into her phone, to jailbreak her phone and get into it and find the passcode. That's interesting.
software changes, does it advance?
Does the software get better?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
At the time you first had the defendant's phone, the software you had was unable to access the contents.
That is correct.
What do? Do you look for other software or do you wait for updates? What's the process?
If there is another software out there, we will use it to try to get the information. If not, we are at the mercy of waiting for the developers to come up with the information for us.
Did you wait in this case?
Yes, we did. We had to wait.
Ultimately, did software advance so that without a passcode you were able to access?
Yes.
How long did you have to wait before you were able to access?
I believe it was July of 2022 that the software had been upgraded enough that it was able to brute force or guess her passcode for the device.
And where does the device remain until you're ready to try again?
In that locked digital forensics lab.
So when
Like
the
6
software
months,
updates
6
and
months.
advances,
They had
do you
to
know
wait
that it will be successful or you
Get
plug it in
into
and try?
Karen Reed's phone.
No, so on Gray Key, they have like a link where you can click and it brings up a whole matrix. So it shows every make model of phone and then the software associated with it. And it says it can do a partial download, a full download, a password guess. And it tells us. So when there's a new update, we'll check that to make sure that the devices we have can be accessed.
Did you make an attempt to have the software access the phone without a passcode?
Objection, Your Honor. Will you approach, please?
All right.
Thank you. Did you use software inevitably to open the defendant's phone?
Yes.
And how many times did you download?
So there was 2 downloads. Thank you. One of the partial part of the phone, and then in the same time that we had it plugged in, we had the password brute force guess software installed onto the phone, so we would try to guess the passcode. So there were 2 downloads, one with very limited data, and then one with the full file system extraction, which is everything on the phone that you can get.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 2 documents, sir.
So this was, yes.
Did you need a copy? Thank you, sir. Give an extra copy of the phone. I'm going to show you 2 documents that actually, the first one, do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Is that a result summary from Gray Key for a search of the defendant's phone?
This is the initial extraction that we created before the password guess process went through.
I'd like to introduce this as the next exhibit, please.
No objection, Your Honor.
That's the original.
Yes, this is the first one. Yep. Information, except it goes further of all the password guess attempts longer until we actually get all of the information from the phone.
I'd like to introduce this as the next exhibit, please.
No objection, Mr. Leslie?
No objection, Your Honor.
20, somewhere.
Can I have the previous exhibit as well, please? Sir, I'm handing you back exhibit 19, which was the partial download.
Okay.
Exhibit 20, which was the subsequent download. You mentioned hash value changes with the content of each download.
Yes.
Is there hash values specifically assigned to each download?
Yes, there is.
Are they the same number and digits in digital fingerprint?
No, they're not.
And explain again why they would be different.
Again, the first one was the partial. It was only 45 gigabytes of data. So it has one number. The second download was 109 gigabytes of data once it got the passcode. And again, that number is completely different again. And again, like I said, the information is not the same, so the hash values won't be the same.
Were there 2 other phones that you inevitably analyzed?
Yes, there were.
Let's start with the first one. Did you have an opportunity to create a file on a phone that came from Kerry Roberts?
Yes, I did.
Now, you said it's a two-step process. First is the extraction, the copying, and then it's creating the file.
That's exactly right.
With Kerry Roberts' phone, did you make the extraction? Did you plug it into the gray key?
No, I didn't.
Who did?
Trooper Connor Keefe.
How do you know Trooper Connor Keefe?
He went to meet with Kerry Roberts, received the device from her. He brought it back to the office and did the extraction. His name is also on the extraction gray key progress reports as well. And he wrote 2 state police reports regarding it.
Do you work with Connor Keefe?
Yes.
He works with, I'm sorry?
I would say we do essentially the same job working together.
So he's in your unit,
Yes, he is.
in the digital forensic unit.
That's correct.
That phone, did it come with any paperwork, any forms?
Yes, he had 2 signed waivers of consent from both parties for each device, one for each device.
And so as far as the copying, the extraction, you did not do the extraction on Kerry Roberts' phone?
No, I did not.
After it was plugged in and a copy was made, did you then access it?
Months down the road.
Were you assigned at that point to analyze or look at any of the data on that phone?
Initially, no.
At some point, did you create a file so that you could provide it to the parties?
Yes, I did.
Was that upon request?
Yes, it was.
And separately, did you know, or did you, let me ask it a different way. Was a phone from Jennifer McCabe extracted?
Yes, it was.
Did you do the extraction?
No, I did not.
Was the information after extracted again provided to a digital file?
It would have been, yes.
And did you, at some point later, did you make a copy to provide to the parties?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us what a USEF reader is?
So the UFED reader is a portable case that I can create through Cellbrite. Again, like I said, it's the exact same program that I would be viewing if I was sitting at my desktop. Instead, it can be made into a thumb drive to give to defense, prosecution, investigators, whoever. And there's no chance for the data to be manipulated because it's just a reader.
When you have the digital file that's been extracted and then created into a PDF or a form that can be read, can you print the entire file on paper if you'd like?
Yes, you could.
Would that include, could you print it so it includes the entire content of the phone?
Yes, it would be thousands of pages, but yes, you could.
Is there any way to isolate particular things of interest that you might want? For example, if you wanted just the chats between 2 people, is there a way that you could have a program isolate just those chats and then give you all of them in a form that you could read?
Yes, so you can go in to cherry pick whatever information you're looking for to create into PDFs or other, it gives 5, I think, different mediums. You can have it output HTML, portable cases, XML files.
If you wanted to create a document that had a number of people in communications, could you do that as well?
Yes, you could.
So you can pretty much set the parameters how you want if you want to search for particular items.
Yes, it's very generous that way of being able to search for keywords, phone numbers, whatever it is, and then you can export that out into a PDF so you can print it.
May I have a moment, Juror?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go through the program and create a number of documents that isolated specific information that you wanted?
Yes.
For example, did you go through and create a report for all of John O'Keefe's calls for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
Did you go through the program and create a report for all of the calls between John O'Keefe and the defendant for a period of time?
Yes, I did.
Did you go through the program and create a specific document that would show just the text messages between John O'Keefe and the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did you go through the phone and create specific separate documents for communications, phone calls, and text messages between Mr. O'Keefe and other people, not the defendant?
Yes.
For example, Ms. Roberts,
Yes, that's correct.
Ms. McCabe.
Yep.
Did you go through any of the phones and create documents to show any text or conversation between parties not involving John O'Keefe?
If directed, I could, but I don't believe I did.
When you took on the task of creating these documents, was it something you did on your own or something that you would wait for a request from a prosecutor or another officer?
I would wait for a request. Again, my knowledge of most of the cases is very, very limited. So if they're looking for something specific, I can assist them. If they need some type of help, I can assist them. But normally I will open it up for them and they have a better knowledge of the case, so they know what they're going to be looking for. Everyone in our office is Cellbrite trained. Or if someone new comes in, that's the first thing they'll go to is to a Cellbrite training, so they know how to use this program. And it doesn't put the burden on myself and Trooper Keefe to try to find everything for every case.
Thank you. John, at this time, I'd like to conclude this witness's testimony to be recalled again.
You're in agreement with that, Mr. Lessie?
We are, Your Honor, subject to the recall.
Okay. All right, Trooper, you're all set.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll see you again.
Should I
You could just leave him right there.
take?
Do you have another witness, Mr. Brennan?
May I?
Yes, please.
Commonwealth calls Mr. Whitley.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
May I?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hello, my name is Daniel Whitley, W-H-I-T-L-E-Y. I'm a paramedic with the Canton Fire Department. I've been a paramedic and firefighter there since March of 2006.
Before you became a paramedic firefighter with the Canton Fire Department, did you work anywhere else related to that field?
Yes, I had 4 years full-time as a EMT intermediate, and also a paramedic at American Medical Response in Brockton.
I'd like to take us right to January 29, 2022.
Yes.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Were you working?
Yes.
What was your role that day?
I was a field training officer working on the ambulance with my partner, Jason Becker.
Mr. Becker?
Correct.
That morning, did you know whether there was a call where a group of your colleagues went to and addressed 34 Fairview?
Yes.
Were you accompanying your colleagues on that initial call?
No.
Where were you at the time your colleagues left to go to that location?
I was at the Station 2, Pond Quad Station, on the north side of town.
Different station?
Correct.
At some point after that call came in and was responded to you, did you receive a call?
Sometime after, I'm not quite sure exactly how soon or later it was, but we received another call to respond to that scene.
As a result of receiving that call, did you make your way towards that location?
Yes.
Who did you go there with?
Just me and my partner at that time was Jason Becker.
What type of vehicle did you use to get there?
It was an ambulance.
What was the weather like?
It was snowing pretty heavily at that point.
I want you to have a fair warning that this guy says a lot of a lot of really heavy just fair warning. Let's see. It's we're just boot scooting and boogieing. We're at like 1.4 speed. We're just gonna get some good background. And then I think it's a quick cross, but we're just gonna boot scoot and boogie through this.
Do you know about how long it took you to get to 34 Fairview?
Not exactly, but definitely longer than usual. It should have been an 8-minute drive. I'm guessing 10 to 12 minutes. You could refer to my partner's report for exacts.
When you got there, what did you see?
We arrived on scene. Our engine was there before. We run on a response with an engine and an ambulance to medical calls. And then at least 2 police cruisers and another car parked on the street, a gray SUV.
When you got there, did you meet with
We're
anybody?
at 1.3 because he does speak a little fast.
Yeah. Usually we get out, we say hi to my lieutenant and the other gentleman, Sam Parker, was on the engine before we got there. They were up front of where we parked, and then we walked down further, or at least I did, to the gray SUV.
When you reached the gray SUV, did you see anybody inside it?
I believe at that point we were kind of, getting out. We were walking down. They were coming out to greet us. There were 3 women there.
Okay. Did you speak to any of them in particular?
Not at that point. No, not really.
At some point, did you have any interaction with any of the women?
Yes.
In fact, did you know any of the women who were there that morning?
I knew Carrie Roberts.
How did you know Carrie Roberts?
Well, first we're neighbors. She lives about 100, 200 yards away from me around the corner. And
Neighbors with
she helped
Carrie.
organize a neighborhood block party, and I would volunteer every year to bring the fire truck to the block party and show the kids the fire truck.
That's actually really
So
sweet.
you knew her well?
No.
Were you friends with her?
No.
Friendly?
I just would describe us as acquaintances.
Did you ever socialize with her personally, other than the block party?
No.
But you knew who she was?
I knew who she was. I don't recognize her, yes.
Did you talk to her that morning?
Not beyond probably a pay or high or something like that.
Okay. Do you know whether she ever gave you any items?
I know at one point I had to exchange whether it was a purse
That was
or
in the courtroom.
a cell phone
It's
or,
like,
or
whoa.
some object from Miss Reed.
At some point that morning, did you have an opportunity to meet with the defendant?
Yes.
Where did you first see her?
We were in the process of getting her to go to the hospital.
When you say we, who was helping you?
That would be, my partner, obviously, Jason Becker, and then my lieutenant,
Craig Woodbury.
Where was she when you first saw her?
Somewhere outside in the street.
Do you recognize her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you identify her, please?
Yes.
Please. You're pointing to a person. Can you give just a very limited?
The woman sitting in between these two gentlemen here.
Did you interact with her that morning? Have a conversation?
Yes.
When you first started speaking to her, what was her demeanor?
Pretty upset, crying. We had a Section 12 in hand, which is a medical order or a police order to be taken to the hospital for a psychological evaluation.
Did you discuss that with her?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ask her to follow you or to come with you?
Yeah, she did.
Did that happen?
To the ambulance, correct.
So you went to the ambulance with the defendant?
Yeah.
And was Mr. Becker with you?
Yes.
What happens when you get to the ambulance?
So it was snowing, and it was more to kind of just get everybody into a nice warmer location where it wasn't snowing or windy or anything like that. And we were discussing that, we have a Section 12 that states regardless of if you want to go, we have to take you to the hospital. She was arguing that she really didn't need to go to the hospital. And we were trying to convince her to go to the hospital because once the Section 12 is written, it doesn't matter what the patient says. We have to get them there one way or the other, whether it's cooperatively restrained or chemically restrained
That's one of my
sedatives or anything.
It's not a voluntary order?
It is not a voluntary order.
Inevitably, did the defendant agree to go with you to the hospital?
Yes.
When you were going to return to the hospital, was the defendant placed in the back of the ambulance where a patient would be?
So how we operate for anybody that's a Section 12 or anybody that is under the influence of anything, we always operate with two people in the back of the ambulance. So myself and my partner, Jason Becker, were back there. And then we had to take somebody from the engine company and have them drive to the hospital. And that was Sam Bach.
Sam Bach?
Bach, B-O-C-H.
Thank you. Before you left, before you started to drive away from Fairview, were you having any conversations with the defendant?
Yes.
Can you share with the jury what those conversations were about?
So we were talking. She was upset. She kept asking if there was any chance her husband could be alive, and even sitting outside in the snow with no coat on for many hours. And
did she indicate what many hours meant? How many?
No.
Husband?
How often did she raise the issue of whether or not, or how long he could be out for?
I'd say at least 3 to 4, maybe more.
Part of your job is to care for patients?
Correct. Yes.
Was part of your job to try to get them to the location safely?
Yes.
And sometimes you treat patients with physical injuries, don't you?
Oftentimes it is physical injuries, yes.
Are you trained when you're trying to transport somebody and how to interact with them?
Yeah. Well, sometimes if they're upset, in this instance, she kept asking if there was any chance that he could be alive. And that we really didn't know what was the patient that ambulance 1 took. We really didn't know what his condition was, and but figuring that it was a hypothermia type case, being the conditions outside, we were trying to give her hope that there's a saying in the medical field: "You're not dead until you're warm and dead." And I was basically the stories of children falling through ice and falling into rivers and being underwater for multiple hours and coming out, being resuscitated and having no neurological deficits. So I was telling her those stories just kind of to say, look, let's be sure we'll get to the hospital. We'll find out more there. Just trying to give her any sort of hope that her husband would be alive. Can you describe her demeanor when she was in the back of the ambulance with you during your interactions with her? She would go from pretty upset, crying. One instance where she kept saying, "I can't take care of these kids. I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids, and they're not his kids." And at that point, I understood who ambulance 1 had taken, because John was pretty well known in the town for taking on the care of his niece and nephew. So I said, "Listen, it's okay. It looks like you have a very strong support system." And then Miss Reed said, "Do you know Carrie Roberts?" And she had been crying. And she picked her head up and said, "Do you know Carrie Roberts?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And she said, "Anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say that about her." And I said, "Well, she did come to out at early in the morning to look for your husband in a blizzard." And she just rolled her eyes and put her head back down. And I thought it was just bizarre.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll strike that last sentence.
Would you describe her demeanor as even through that ride?
No.
That is,
How long did it take to get to the hospital?
I mean, you can refer to my partner's ambulance trip report. I'm sure it has the
Do you have it right with you?
I just keep like rehearing these things. Tried to give her hope that he was still alive. And that he like immediately knew without even knowing, like he didn't know who was taken to the hospital, who was in the snow, that it was John O'Keefe, that he was a Boston police officer. But when she said, I can't take care of these kids, I can't take care of these kids, they're not mine and they're not his, he was like, oh my God, this must be the lady friend of John O'Keefe, the famous man of taking in his niece and nephew. Oh my God, I know this man. How small is this goddamn town?
Right with you, sir?
I do not know.
Well, let me ask you.
I would guess about 15 to 20 minutes, somewhere in
Yes.
You don't have an
We're
exact
not
memory?
here
No.
to guess. We're not
When
here
you get to the hospital with a patient under these circumstances, do you leave them at the door?
there. No.
What do you do?
We have to hand off care. So we go in and we have to give a report to a nurse to let them know what their condition is, why they're coming to the hospital, and what we found taking them to the hospital.
When you got to the hospital with Miss Reed, did you interact with the hospital personnel?
Yes.
Do you typically, after you hand off a patient to staff, do you leave?
Typically, yes. This time, Miss Reed was, I'm going to say, not really cooperative with the nurse there. The nurse was asking her to get into a Johnny, give a urine sample. She was not cooperative. The nurse tried to work with her, had an ER tech go and ask the doctor if she had to get into a Johnny. She came back. She said, yes, she's a patient. She has to do all the normal stuff. We really didn't feel comfortable actually leaving the general area. I don't know if it was just shift change or what, but security wasn't there. And with her demeanor, we just didn't feel comfortable leaving the nurse by herself with Miss Reed.
You said that there was some difficult times. Was there some difficulty about the defendant accepting wearing a Johnny?
Yes, she was refusing to get into the Johnny, and the nurse kept saying, well, you gotta get into this Johnny. The nurse did try to work with her.
Okay, a Johnny is a hospital gown, and I just Googled hospital Johnny. And why are hospital gowns called Johnnies? Hospital gowns are sometimes called Johnnies, particularly in Canada and New England, due to their open back design and the ease of access to the toilet. And you use the John. That's actually funny. Wait, that's silly. There's silly gooses over there.
And
You just call them
asked the doc
gowns.
I'll allow that.
and so the ER doc, the ER tech had to come back and say, yes, she has to get into the Johnny. And at that point she did. She seemed to have calmed down and was getting into the Johnny. Security personnel had shown up, and we felt comfortable being able to kind of leave the nurse and the tech on their own.
Before security came, was there difficulty in her providing the urine sample?
Do you know the answer to that?
Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Why don't you ask it a little different?
Sure. Do you remember whether she was giving the nurses a hard time about a urine sample?
Yes.
So break that down, Mr. Brennan. The objection is sustained.
You said that she was giving nurses a hard time.
She didn't want to give a urine sample. And then the nurses kept asking her to, this is the cup, you pee in the cup.
No, I'm going along.
You were there and saw this, right?
I saw it, yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Yes.
All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Whitley here.
Good afternoon.
Sir, you knew before you got into ambulance 2 that you were
Leonetti is
heading to
handling this
Fairview
one.
Road for what is called a Section 12, correct?
We were dispatched for a Section 12, correct?
Right. And that was not your first call for a Section 12, right?
No.
You had been in that job since 2006?
Yes.
You've handled a number of them over the years, correct?
Correct.
The fact that the call came in as a Section 12 gave you some idea of the nature of the issue that you might be dealing with, correct?
We had an idea that it was for a psychological issue, correct?
It told you that somebody at that location was suspected of being in some type of either psychiatric or emotional distress, correct?
Yes.
And on your crew, or of your crew, I should say, you were the one to drive the ambulance 2 to the residence, correct?
I drove to the address at Fairview.
Now, you've said that when you got to Fairview Road, you don't recall the time, but you do recall that there were still emergency vehicles on scene, correct?
I do.
There was nobody lying in the front lawn of 34 Fairview at that time, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how much later after 6 a.m. you would have gone there?
You'd have to refer to my partner's report.
You don't know if it was minutes or hours?
It was minutes. It was within the hour. I don't know.
Within the hour,
Yeah.
okay. And you said that there were, or you testified that there were 2 police vehicles on scene, correct?
At least 2.
At least 2. There could have been more than 2.
It certainly could have been.
And those police vehicles in such a situation, particularly with the snow falling down, would have had their blue lights flashing?
I'm not exactly sure if they did or if they didn't. Sometimes the police shut off their lights when they arrive on scene. Sometimes they don't.
Okay, so you don't have a memory one way or the other?
No, nothing sticks out.
But those police vehicles certainly were not hidden. They were in plain view, correct?
I would say so.
Minimum of 2, maybe more. Correct?
Yes.
And there was also a gray SUV parked near that residence?
Correct.
And there was a fire engine there as well, correct?
Correct.
You called it our engine, right? That was from
Well, it would be engine 3.
Engine 3 from
Or at
your
least
station.
the Station 1 engine.
I'm sorry?
The Station 1 engine. So Canton Fire has 2 fire stations. We were coming from the second station. The Station 1 engine is the one that responded to Fairview.
Okay, and that was a typical large fire engine, correct?
Yeah.
And did the fire engine have its lights on?
I assume it did, only because we rarely shut our lights off on a scene.
Sure. And there were police
That's fair.
officers walking about, milling about?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
That to me is a fair moment of I have an assumption, because 99.9% of the time we do not shut our fire engine lights off when they are on scene until we're leaving, right? Until the end of the scene. So I'm going to assume that they were on. I think that is fair. When it comes to the other assumptions of could have been 5, could have been 6, could have been 7 a.m. I don't know. It was a time in the morning, sometime in there. I'm gonna need you to say I don't know. A.m. before my coffee, before breakfast, something to give us a frame, but just to throw out the random numbers. Yeah. But this time I'm like comfortable with that. Like we never shut them off. I don't remember a time we've ever shut off our lights while on a scene, it being active and not fully cleared. So
I know I spoke with Officer Saraf and Officer Mulaney.
Okay. And
So at least 2.
And you know them by name?
Yeah, Canton's a fairly small town, so you run into the police on a regular basis.
Sure, and you work cooperatively with them, correct?
Yes.
Were there other police officers besides Saraf and Mulaney?
I'm sure there could have been, but I don't recall ever speaking with them or interacting with them.
Okay. Were there other EMTs or firefighters there when you got there?
Just my Lieutenant Woodbury, and then Firefighter Sandpock.
Okay, and they were in charge of Engine 1?
Well, the Station 1 engine.
The Station 1 engine? Okay. And there were also civilians on scene, correct?
Correct.
So you would agree that there was a lot of activity outside 34 Fairview, correct?
There's a fair amount of
I
activity.
mean, there were people and vehicles and lights surrounding that residence, correct?
I assume so, yes.
Well, you were there, so
Yep.
you don't really have to assume, you know, right?
There was at least 2 police cruisers and a fire engine.
Right, and civilians,
That's
and
it.
police officers, and firefighters, correct? And civilians.
Correct.
All right. With all of that activity outside 34 Fairview, did you ever see the homeowner come out of his house?
I wouldn't have known the homeowner.
Do you ever see anybody exit the house?
I was not focused on the house at all.
All right. You were there to do a job, correct?
I was there to take somebody to the hospital.
Right. And you were there also to do a medical or psychiatric assessment while you were on scene, correct?
Well, yes, my partner was. Correct.
All right. When you got there, you learned, well, I have to strike that. You knew going there that your patient would have been Karen Reed, correct?
No.
Okay. When you got there, you learned your patient was to be Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
All right. And given the nature of the call, you knew when you arrived that you would be transporting her to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the first things that you tried to do was to get a medical history from her, correct?
Or my partner.
All right. And you were present for that, correct?
I may or may not have been.
Getting a medical history is important so that you can pass along information to the hospital when you eventually arrive there with the patient, correct?
Yes.
And you know that when assessing and treating somebody, getting more information is always better than getting less information, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so there are times when you'd like to get less information from a patient before you transport them?
So it would be pertinent information.
It's actually a fair answer to the question. Not always. It's not always necessary or better to get more information. I think that is this is a moment where I just have to like laugh at you, Natty, because I'm like, your tone is doing so much work. Your tone is doing so much work when it comes to the question, because the question is a pretty broad question. Like, is it always better to get more than less? I mean, not really. Sometimes I just need someone to just shut up, stop talking, and just let me work on my patient. And like, like, oh, they like a gunshot wound. Like, I'm just gonna need you to just shut up. I get it. But right now, is he allergic to any pain meds? No? Great. Pain meds in. Let's work on this. Let's work on this gunshot wound. Like, for example, I don't know. But like, I need you to stop talking. I don't need any more right now. I can't get any more right now. I think is kind of those kind of high stress, it's now or never sort of moments when it comes to EMTs and firefighters, and paramedics, when you have a patient like needing something right this second. And I think Yannetti is using his tone to be like, oh, so you guys like to work on little information. Nice, good, because why would you need more information? It's giving very much like condescending, which is very defense attorney. But I think that was a fair answer to the question, Yannetti.
For instance, if somebody was complaining of chest pain and they had, stents placed in their heart, we wouldn't talk about how they had their tonsils removed when they were 12.
Okay, fair enough. But getting more information is not going to negate the crucial information that you do get, correct?
I mean, it certainly could in a critical stage. If there was a critical patient, we wouldn't typically overburden passing off a report to a nurse or a doctor with non-pertinent information.
Okay, it's not your testimony that getting less information is always better than getting more information, is it?
I would say getting pertinent information is better than having.
That wasn't my question. My question was, is it your testimony that getting less information is always better than getting more information, sir?
I would not agree with that, no.
Okay, thank you.
No.
The medical
that
history
wasn't
that was taken from
necessary.
Ms. Reed listed her as having multiple sclerosis, right?
I want to see it, Saba, please.
All right. I'm going to boot, scoot, and boogie, skedaddle right through this little break here. Oops.
I understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Sir, the medical testimony, history that your partner and you took from Ms. Reed listed that she suffered from multiple sclerosis, correct?
Correct.
And you know that that's a chronic disease of the central nervous system?
It's my understanding.
And what does chronic mean?
I believe any disease lasting more than a certain amount of time, could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Persists for a long time or constantly recurs?
Correct.
And it's a disease that affects neurological muscle control, correct?
That's my understanding.
And last question, it's also a progressive disease, which means it tends to get worse over time?
My understanding.
All right. Now, when you first interacted with Karen Reed after you got to 34 Fairview.
MS is a disease that people have runs and walks and benefits for. MS research, I think, is completely understated. We need so much more. It is a progressive, and it can be horrifyingly intense as it progresses. There are varying degrees and weights of MS, and some progress quicker and faster and more intensely than others. And I have seen a lot of people in my life suffer from MS, and it's not fun, and it's not pretty, and it's really, really painful. So if Karen Reed does have MS, that does not mean she's innocent. That does not mean she's guilty. But it is terrible.
Fairview, and encountered that whole scene.
It's a really not fair
was whether
for anyone
was
to suffer
alive or dead, correct?
Correct.
Bless you. She asked if somebody could survive after having been found in the snow without a jacket, correct?
For many hours, correct.
All right. And you mentioned something about hypothermia, that you assumed that you may have been dealing with the hypothermia situation from earlier, correct?
Well, she said that he had been out in the snow with no jacket on for many hours.
And you assumed hypothermia was your testimony, correct?
Yes.
You are not qualified to diagnose hypothermia, are you?
I'm not a doctor.
Okay. And you don't know if your assumption about hypothermia was correct or incorrect, correct?
Is my assumption correct?
My question is,
Wait, that's
as
fair.
you testified here today, after
He's like, I assumed, for dealing, we weren't dealing with GSW, we weren't dealing with like a hanging, or we weren't dealing with an attack, we weren't dealing with like gang violence, we were dealing with someone who was found in the snow. That's what I heard. And, she said outside, no coat, multiple hours, we're in a blizzard. I'm assuming hypothermia. And he goes, well, is my assumption correct? Was I right? It's not his job to know if he was right. It's not his job to know if he was wrong. It wasn't his job to medically take care of John O'Keefe.
after having dropped off Karen Reed at the
I like
hospital
that
for
he
that
got
section 12.
a little strength there.
You don't know if the assumption
Was
that you
it?
made that you were dealing with the
You tell me.
hypothermia situation was correct or not. Is that right?
Well, they were certainly working on him at the hospital as a hypothermia patient.
You don't know if your assumption was correct or not, sir.
I guess I don't.
And you told her, in fact, that you could not speak to that, correct?
I'm sorry, to what?
In terms of how long somebody could survive outside, correct?
I couldn't speak to his condition is basically what I was trying to say to her.
All right. But she still persisted in asking you over and over if he was alive or dead, correct?
Correct.
She wouldn't let that go. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
And that was despite your not being able to give her an answer, correct?
Again, we were just trying to sort of give her any hope.
That's something that I've thought about a
So she
lot
kept asking
since
it,
the
and you were
beginning
trying
of
to give
this
her hope
trial.
that he could still.
That EMTs have so, like, comparatively, such little training compared to doctors, compared to medical doctors, compared to surgeons. They have such small amounts of training. It's wild to me. It's wild. But at the same time, I would not trust the majority of what are they called, like your normal doctor, like your normal doctor, your practitioner or whatever, to be an EMT. Like, there's so much more involved than just the medical knowledge to be an EMT. I'm gonna need you cool, calm, and fucking collected. Like, you roll up, I'm gonna need you to strut to me if I need an EMT. Like, I'm gonna need you to be walking the runway like you're so cool, you're so calm, like you got this. Like, I need confidence, I need strength, I need quick thinking, I need jokes. I need jokes, like I need so much more from an EMT than I do like a normal, I'm gonna go get my yearly checkup doctor. Like, it's so wild. It is so wild. It is absolutely absurd.
Still be alive, correct?
Correct.
All right, now, today you claimed that her demeanor had changed when you mentioned Kerry Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And the term that you used to describe her demeanor when you mentioned Kerry Roberts as being part of a support system, what term did you use?
I'm sorry.
When you just testified on direct examination, could you characterize the way that she reacted when you mentioned Kerry?
She had been crying in
Bizarre.
her hands, and
That's what he's looking for. Bizarre.
I said, it looks like you have a very strong support system. And she picked up her head. She had her face in her hands. She picked up her head out of her hands, looked at me, and said, "Do you know Kerry Roberts?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And she said, "Anybody who knows Kerry Roberts wouldn't say that about her."
Okay, and you've previously described that in testimony last year as her being snarky was the term you used, correct? But you were first interviewed by the police on February 8th of 2022, correct?
That's what the report says, yes.
About 10 days after this?
About that.
And
It's like, well,
the
you
events
too.
of January
You're
29th
being snarky.
were
Both of
fresh
you
in
two
your
are being
mind
snarky.
on February 8th of 2022, correct?
As fresh as they are today.
Okay, so you
Here we
do
go.
not allow that your memory was better on February 8th of 2022 regarding January 29th of 2022. It wasn't better on February 8th than it is today, is your testimony.
I would feel it's just as good.
Okay. Your memory does not get better over time, correct?
For this case, it seemed to stick out to me.
Okay, so are you testifying that
You
your
should answer the
memory
question.
gets better over time?
No, but
that would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Correct.
In that February 8th, 2022 interview, you were asked about Kerry Roberts, right?
I'm sorry, what day?
February 8th of 2022. Okay. You were asked about Kerry Roberts, right?
I do not recall if I was or was not.
You told the police that you knew Carrie Roberts from your neighborhood, correct?
Okay, yes.
And you've testified today that she just lived 200 yards away from you, right around the corner, right?
About that.
And you told police that you had seen Carrie Roberts on scene at 34 Fairview when you got there, correct?
Correct.
You also told police that Karen Reed, had told you about making statements about her wanting to die, correct?
Correct.
But on February 8th of 2022, just 10 days after these events, you never mentioned to the police during that interview that Karen was snarky in any way, correct?
I don't know if I did or I didn't. I don't know if it would be in their report.
I love that they keep using the word snarky because
if you saw that report, would it refresh your memory as to whether or not you mentioned snarkiness?
I don't think I mentioned snarkiness that day. No.
All right, well, that answers my question.
Okay.
Attorneys.
Back to your neighborhood, the same neighborhood that you lived in with Carrie Roberts, correct?
Correct.
Do you still live in that neighborhood?
I do.
Does Carrie Roberts still live there?
She does.
So you and
You
Carrie
still live
Roberts
about
have
200
continued to
yards
live in the
away
same
from
neighborhood for years
Carrie
after January 29th, correct?
We have.
And
Did you
before
also
ever
become-
encountered Karen Reed that day?
Did you also become super close friends with Carrie Roberts after the day? Are you and Carrie Roberts now besties also?
You had interacted with Carrie Roberts in the past, correct?
Briefly, yes.
Well, you were both on the same neighborhood Facebook page, were you not?
Yes, that's why I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the
Right.
block party.
One time she had posted on that neighborhood Facebook page that she wanted to have a fire truck at the neighborhood block party, correct?
Correct.
And that's when you replied and volunteered that you would bring the fire truck to that block party as she requested, correct?
Correct.
And you also worked with Carrie Roberts on the Ponkapog Civic Association, did you not?
I did not know. She worked on the board prior to my arrival on the board.
So you both worked on the same board, but just at different times?
Different times, correct.
I think you had touched on this earlier. In addition to knowing Carrie Roberts, having been with the Canton Fire Department since 2006, there have been many times when you've worked in conjunction with the police, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to the two police officers that you mentioned having
Almost
seen
done for the day.
at
We're very
34
close.
Fairview on January 29th, that being Seraph and Merlaney, you know many other officers at the Canton police station.
I do.
And as you say, Canton's a small
15
town,
more minutes
correct?
and then we are done
Relatively.
for the
People
day.
know each other, correct?
Correct.
You also knew former state trooper Michael Proctor before you arrived at 34 Fairview, correct?
I did.
Michael Proctor actually was 2 years ahead of you in school, was he not?
He was.
And you learned at some point that your school classmate, Michael Proctor, was the lead investigator into the death of John O'Keefe, this case, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, when you spoke to the police in February of 2022, Michael Proctor was one of the troopers to interview you, correct?
Correct.
You did not go to school with Karen Reed, right?
No, not to my knowledge.
You didn't help coordinate neighborhood block parties with Karen Reed, right?
No.
You were not in the civic association that Karen Reed belonged to at any point, correct?
No.
She was a stranger to you.
I've
on
always
January
loved
29th,
the
2022,
she's an
correct?
She
outsider
was a patient of mine,
argument.
yes.
Well, as far as you knew, she was an outsider to Canton, correct?
She ain't from here.
I did not know that.
You didn't live in the same neighborhood with her?
I'm not sure if we did or did not.
You had no personal contact with her either before or after January 29th of 2022, correct?
No.
All right. Now, as a result of your having gone to the scene, there's a patient care record that is generated, correct?
Correct.
All right. And on this issue of the snarkiness and the demonstration that you just did, there's a contemporaneous report of your team's observations from January 29th, right?
Are you referring to my partner's wrong report?
Yeah, the patient care report.
Yes.
All right. And that patient care report is dated January 29th of 2022 and is timed at 9:03 and 34 seconds a.m. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right.
All right. And that 9:03:34, from your knowledge of how patient care reports are generated, would that be the time that you arrived on scene or the time that the report is written?
I mean, I would have to see what time, the exact time you're referring to, but it could be the time the call is closed, or it could be the time you finish the report. There could be multiple reports. I'm not exactly positive which report you're talking about.
Okay. In any case, it was from that morning, correct?
Well, I assume so.
I mean, there was only one morning that you went to 34 Fairview.
Well, no, but there could be two reports. So the engine has to write a report and the ambulance has to write a report.
But they're both about that morning, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, there are boxes to fill out on the patient care record, correct?
Correct.
One of the boxes is primary impression.
Yes.
What does primary impression mean?
That is just what we believe the patient's not complaint is, but what we believe the patient is suffering from.
Okay, and that is listed on the patient care record for Karen Reed as a behavioral/psychiatric episode, correct?
Yeah, so that's a box we check for just about any section 12.
Sure, and of course that mentions nothing about snarkiness, correct?
No, that is my partner's report.
Okay, there's also a box for secondary impression, correct?
Correct.
What is secondary impression?
That might be like just a secondary complaint most of the time. A lot of the times, patients don't have a secondary complaint.
Okay, but in this case, it's listed as anxiety/emotional upset, correct?
Yes.
All right, and again, that mentions nothing about snarkiness, correct?
That's my partner's report, yes.
There's also a box for signs and symptoms, right?
Wait,
There is.
sir. So are you saying if you wrote the report, you'd say that she was being super snarky? That's my partner's report. Okay, well that sounds like, well, if I wrote it, it'd be she was hella snarky and she's going into the hospital because of her snarkiness.
And nowhere in the signs and symptoms box is snarkiness mentioned, correct?
No, I don't think that would be medically appropriate.
And then in the patient care record, it's recorded that Karen was found sitting in the front passenger seat of a friend's car, crying and visibly upset, but cooperative, right?
If that's my partner's words, yes.
All right. And those words, actually nowhere in the patient care record is it listed that she was snarky in any way, correct?
Again, that would not be something we would put into patient care report.
And you did not put it in, correct?
It was my partner's report, and no, we did not put it in.
Okay. And once Ms. Reed agreed to go with you in the ambulance, it's fair to say she was still upset and crying, correct?
At times.
If I may have a moment.
Sure.
No moment.
Thank you. Fine. Once you got in the ambulance, correct?
Correct.
You testified on April 21st of 2022 before the grand jury, did you not?
I did.
And that was 3 months after the events that you're testifying about today?
Roughly.
And your memory back then was fresh, was it not?
Yes.
And you were asked the question, once she was in the back of the ambulance and she agreed voluntarily to go to the hospital, did she appear to calm down at that point? Do you remember that question?
I do.
And your answer was, she wasn't arguing against us at that point. Once she, agreed to come with us voluntarily, she was still upset, crying, and talking on the phone. Do you remember that answer?
I do.
All right. You didn't mention in that answer that it was only at times that she was crying and upset, correct?
No.
Okay. The whole time, from beginning to end, Ms. Reed was constantly worried about John, was she not?
Objection.
Sustained.
You recall that she was on the phone at one point speaking to someone that she called Papa, correct?
Correct.
Did you later learn that Papa was John O'Keefe Sr.?
I am just learning that just now.
All right. And in any case, you heard her say to Papa, is he dead? He's dead, isn't he?
Sustained.
You could hear on the other end of the line that Papa was saying something to her, correct?
The objection sustained.
May I approach?
The witness or me?
Sidebar.
Okay.
A witness or me? It's like, I don't want to know. She's like, I'm not asking him what he said, but if he could hear them saying things. And
Discuss this case with it'll be short. I don't want to keep you folks here until 4:30. It's been a long day. So I'm going to release you today. Have you come back tomorrow. We'll make every effort to start late at 9 tomorrow. Please follow those cautions. Do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do
okay.
All right, so I would like to move things along a little bit more expeditiously tomorrow. What would be very helpful to me, Mr. Brennan, are these clips. I haven't seen I haven't watched anything on television about any of these. Do you have them all in one compilation that I can look at in advance? Sure.
Yeah.
Should have brought it. The intention was that you'd have an.
Okay. Court's over. She wants the clips so that she can see all of them before it's just sort of sprung on her that they're going to argue about clips when all of this should have been figured out in the first place. But things can change, and that is okay. So we have wow, We have a day. We have a day tomorrow. We are going to start. I'm thinking like 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. I'm going to schedule the stream tonight. We are going to get through. So that was the end of day 2. We are going to get through day 3 and day 4 tomorrow. We are here. I'm here. I'm going to be streaming all day tomorrow. All day. You can't stop me. What are you going to do? You can't stop me. I'm going to be streaming all day tomorrow and all day Thursday as well. Lots of good testimony today. We are on, I mean, look at all, I have so many notes already. What was he? Witness number 5. He was witness number 5, Daniel Whitley. So much going on. We're getting into it, we're getting into it. And I feel like the only things that we're working up to is Jen McCabe, Proctor. Those are like the only things that I feel like we're working up to, but there's so much more that we're working up to. There's so much going on. And this is just the Commonwealth's case in chief. There's so much. Day 2 has been a lot. First 2 days, we got a lot. They fed us. And it's just going to keep going. This is such a juicy case. It's insane. Tomorrow, I know it's late today. We usually never go this late. I know it's late today, but if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to like chat through tomorrow, let me know, because I am happy and willing to chat. I'm kind of keeping up with it, but also not at the same time as it's live, even as we're behind. But we have these opportunities, and I'm going to take them to catch up as much as possible. I'm excited for tomorrow too. Bring some snacks, bring some drinks, get comfy. It's going to be such a nice day out tomorrow, but I'm going to be inside all day because we are going to get through testimony. All right. I will see you. Thank you for being here, y'all. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I will see you guys tomorrow. I will play my intro as my outro, like always. And I'll see you in the morning. Probably coffee in hand. And we're doing it. Okay, bye.